for Central Ohio this evening. Now, before our 6 o'clock broadcast came to an end, we had several counties added to the tornado watch for good reason, as we're still tracking disruptive and potentially severe storms moving into Central Ohio. That tornado watch is until 10 o'clock and now includes Union County, Delaware County, over toward Licking County and down toward Fairfield County, and the areas to the south and west where we're under that watch are still under that watch. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning that includes parts of Franklin County, Pickaway County, Madison County, and Fayette County that goes for 45 minutes. And then also a flash flood warning for counties and communities from Muskegum and Zanesville all the way to the panhandle of West Virginia for more rainfall that they don't need. We're seeing some flooding everywhere in Central Ohio, but that has the opportunity, unfortunately, to be the worst. Quick look at the radar scan right now, almost on cue between 6 and 7 o'clock. These storms gain energy. They moved into an area which earlier had some showers, and the possibility again with the dry weather, the sunshine and the warming temperatures and that cold front coming in, all those ingredients coming together as we look at the chance here for some of those strong to severe storms. We're also seeing some frequent lightning right now, and that threat will continue for us as we go for the next hour or two in and around Columbus and Lockbourne, Mount Sterling and Circleville, and the leading edge of that severe thunderstorm warning again is moving in at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. So we're going to kind of tag team weather here for the next half hour or so, just keeping you and your family safe and keeping you up to date on 10 TV Plus. We're going to bring in Michael Behrens to take a look at a bit of a dissection of some of the storms. Now, Michael, we've both been working over the past several hours and watching what's going on, but overall the threat has been for significant thunderstorms, but we haven't seen anything in terms of some broad circulation and tornadoes possible in any of the storms, but that could change.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything rotating here in Central Ohio as of right now, which is some good news with these storms as they come through. The more we can clutter up the environment with some rain out there, the less likely we are to get some of the unspoiled air, so to speak, where these storms can be on their own and be allowed to grow. Of course, that's not to say we won't see severe weather here this evening. In fact, we're already seeing again that severe thunderstorm warning in place that's going to be working its way toward the southern side of Franklin County here over the next little bit. We'll take a view inside our bigger picture here at some of these storms across Central Ohio and give you the lowdown of what's going on across the state as well. We've been tracking the severe storms out of Indiana and in through Kentucky and southwestern Ohio this evening, and we continue to see those storms. Rotating thunderstorm down in northern Kentucky, just the one severe thunderstorm warning southwest of Columbus here this evening for us. We'll get a closer zoom in on that particular storm down to the southwest of the city, and you can see it's not a single cell type storm, which is good news, but not to say that this can't rotate or that it can't certainly produce some hail or some other severe factors here this evening. It's producing the lightning outside right now north of Washington Courthouse. Pretty good amount of lightning working its way to the east of Jeffersonville. Mount Sterling seeing the lightning come down as well. This is traveling right along I-71. I'll put this in motion here and you can take a look at how these storms have been progressing over the past few hours, moving in from the southwest ever so slightly to the northeast here this evening. You can kind of catch that with the track of that particular severe thunderstorm warning in place as well. These storms going to continue to work their way through the region over the next several hours as we head into the evening hours tonight, with the severe potential hopefully starting to decrease as we lose the daylight out there. But again, we have to watch these carefully for the next little bit. I want to take a look inside the storm and see if we can find a few factors of the severity out there. One of those would be hail. Anywhere you get the brighter reds, yellows here on the map, that's where we see some of the hail becoming a bigger factor. We'll zoom in to a few of those spots on your map here as well. Two out there at Jeffersonville and to the southwest of Mount Sterling, to the west of Madison Mills. The area near Madison Mills having some of the heavier areas of hail working its way through right now. We'll get a little bit closer here, pop some of those smaller streets on the map there. Looks like not too many roads out there. We'll zoom out just a bit here. You can see White Oak Road Northeast, just off to the east of this particular cell, having some of the hail heading your way not before too long. Harrison Road, this is probably going to move more toward the north of you guys and work its way up closer toward Mount Sterling here in the next little bit. This is going to likely stay south of I-71, but if you're in that general vicinity. Don't be surprised if you see a little bit of hail. We'll take a few more steps back here on the map as well. You can see that hail working its way again toward Mount Sterling, just south of I-71 there on the latest update. Of course, the big thing we've been worried about is the potential for tornadoes this evening. So I want to go ahead and take a look and see if we see any kind of rotation inside these particular thunderstorms. We'll use the Wilmington radar here. As far as what I'm seeing here, definitely looks like some signs of wind, but I wouldn't say signs of rotation, at least not how this is playing out here. We talk about where the reds and the greens come together on the radar, and when you get them close together, it could be an indication that we are seeing rotation potential in the cell, but they have to be together in the right way for the radar beam. So if this area of red and this area of green were more next to each other like this, that's where you would be seeing the rotation potential. But when they're stacked in the beam, you can see those lines of the beam come across. When they're stacked like this, now we're talking about wind coming from the thunderstorm. So we'll put the arrows on here for you. This is outflow coming out from that hail core, so the winds spreading away from one another. So certainly could see some gusty, severe thunderstorm winds heading toward Mount Sterling, north of Madison Mills, and in the general vicinity of I-71. Those will be things to watch for as this storm continues and continues to be under a severe thunderstorm warning for at least the next little bit. Right now, that's the only severe thunderstorm warning out there. Of course, we're a little bit too close with the lightning there to get a big picture, so we'll zoom out again. That one severe thunderstorm warning right now here in the 10 TV viewing area. A lot of rain out there, kind of cluttering up the air, but still watching back toward Logan County, Bellefontaine, Urbana. We're seeing some more storms form back there, Jerry, so we're not quite done with this system here tonight. Hey,
Michael, you talked about the ingredients coming together for some of the severe weather and kind of did a closer inspection on a few of those cells, the most notably the one south of Columbus, in particular the hail. Earlier in the afternoon and the evening, further south and west, we did certainly see the opportunity for some of that severe weather to move in. But as we're expanding our view right now, we're looking at the opportunity for some larger thunderstorms, I should say some thunderstorms that are fewer and further between as we get off toward the west. And this one around Bellefontaine and Urbana, this is not that far from the area around Indian Lake that just got walloped, unfortunately, by that EF3 storm. That was back on March the 14th. And you do see a slim liver, just a thin line of some thunderstorms across east central of Indiana. That one moving just north and east at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. So as we expand this view just a little bit more to give you a different perspective, behind that line, there's not much going on. That's actually, I think, with the cold front itself, or very near to the cold front. And notice just the very thin nature is that particular line of thunderstorms. And notice also, while it's getting our attention, it's not producing anything severe. There are no tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings along that line. But when we get closer to home, that's closer to Columbus. That's where we're seeing for the moment the more severe thunderstorms, and the one right now in southern Franklin County that is drawing our attention. So the other thing you might notice too, that we're seeing a fair amount of lightning moving ahead of this storm, southeast of Columbus down toward Lancaster. Closer inspection to some of those counties and communities right now that are under the threat from that particular storm. We're looking in areas in southeastern Franklin County, down around northwestern Fairfield County, northern Pickaway County, those locations around Pickerington, Groveport, Asheville, and Grove City. Seeing those pockets and flashes of that frequent lightning reaching Pataskala, Buckeye Lake, and Pleasantville, and Lancaster. And those last few areas that I mentioned currently are not under the severe thunderstorm warning, but if this holds true, I would not be surprised to see that particular warning moving a little further off toward the northeast as that thunderstorm kind of maintains its intensity. So let's recenter things and take you a little closer, or a little further out, I should say. This would be an opportunity for us to get a little perspective on areas just north and west of Columbus. We're seeing a couple of flashes of lightning and some thunder, Marysville, Delaware, and northern parts of Madison County. But we're not seeing the severe threat right now that we're seeing in southern Franklin County, northern parts of Pickaway County, and back toward areas in southeastern Madison County and Fayette County. Again, this area, this rectangle, that is a severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 7:45, another 35 minutes. Now, there are other near neighbor storms that we saw earlier this evening, and those had a history of producing some damaging winds and some large hail. But as we look further out from this particular vantage point, we do see that aside from that particular storm right now, and one right across the Ohio River southeast of Cincinnati, that there's not widespread severe pockets of weather. The one thing that we did talk about earlier in the afternoon, if you remember, if you were with us, let's say during the 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock news, That is, if these thunderstorms kind of congealed together, there's only a finite amount of energy that's in the atmosphere. If there's only so much energy that they have to share and they're kind of forming together like in a blob, then that takes away from the individual thunderstorms of being stronger. That appears to be the case, at least for the moment, as we're watching a larger, broader area of those storms and not the discrete individual, we call them supercell thunderstorms, that would individually draw on that energy and that momentum. And that's what we were really concerned about. Now, still, not out of the woods completely as we go for the next couple of hours. Remember, that tornado watch for central Ohio was in effect, or is in effect, until 10 o'clock tonight, but it's looking a little bit less likely at 7:11 p.m. And we thank you again for joining us on 10 TV Plus for your weather updates. Looking less and less likely that we're going to see widespread long-track tornadoes from this particular event. So let's put that in motion for you and kind of move things along as we go back in time. That would show some of the action that we're seeing over the past couple of hours for you. And then moving it, if I can get the right clicker here, there we go. Shows the evolution of the storm moving in from eastern Indiana and Kentucky into central Ohio. But only a couple of these storms have been producing enough lightning and really gained the intensity to be severe. I'm watching this cell northwest of Columbus right now, which is looking rather interesting and kind of on its own. That in of itself would draw our attention to it, as we've been just mentioning literally moments ago, that the chance there for some of those particular thunderstorms to kind of maintain their individuality. And this is an opportunity where we don't want to see those thunderstorms doing that, because that means they're kind of out on their own and they will be able to just kind of gather that particular amount of energy. That particular cell right now is moving just south and east of areas in around Indian Lake. So as we're looking at that particular storm right now, there's Logan County, there is Hardin County, Marion County, and Union County. But this particular thunderstorm we're watching right here, while it is not at the moment producing severe weather, it's kind of out on its own, and it is gathering and drawing on that energy that previously has not yet been tapped. So we're going to keep an eye on that storm as well. But certainly what's going on in and around Franklin County and Columbus, and that's one of the things that we're really watching closely right now, that severe thunderstorm warning. You see the outline there, just clipping areas around Grove City in the southwestern corner down to around Orient. That was that severe thunderstorm warning that goes until about 7:45 p.m. So we've been watching the evolution of these storms and obviously keeping you and your family safe and kind of staying ahead of the storm. And it's worth mentioning when we're talking about this heightened awareness and heightened alert, while everybody is not likely to see severe weather as we go through the course of the evening, that we're certainly under the opportunity to see stronger storms, and it's only early April. So if you don't get hit by severe weather this evening, think of the silver lining here and the opportunity for you to at least go through those steps to prepare and do what you have to do to be ready the next time that the situation presents itself. Yeah, I'm not saying we're out of the woods tonight. We still have some very active weather, especially moving in to areas just south of Columbus. But if you don't get hit by the severe weather this evening, consider yourself fortunate and use this as an opportunity to kind of make your plan. So one of the things, Michael, that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, unfortunately, is that many of these storms are coming through at an inopportune time, right after or around sunset, and that puts people at an enhanced risk because it's dark.
As soon as the sun goes down with these storms, certainly makes it harder to spot the severe weather before it heads your way. A lot of people, they see a tornado warning come out and they wonder, can I see that from my house? That's the wrong response to have to it, especially at night, because you're not going to see it. And a lot of times here with storms, especially like this, look at all the rain out there. In fact, we'll put this back into just the current radar view. It is a washout when it comes to the rain across the region. You're not going to be able to see through that rain, see through the darkness, and see a tornado coming down. It's just not the type of storms that we get very often here in central Ohio. So in that case, you're not going to see it coming your way. And especially as things get darker, you're not going to see it coming your way. Out in front of this line of storms right now, with just the one severe thunderstorm warning, we will have to see how the environment plays out for the potential of severe weather across southeastern portions of the 10 TV viewing area. Of course, they haven't had much of the rain yet here this evening, so they've still got some untapped energy out there. Temperatures across the region, especially in the southern counties, quite warm. We're seeing the mid to upper 60s, even 70s for places like Chillicothe, Piketon, and Jackson. You combine that with dew points, which usually we talk about more toward the summer when things start to get kind of sticky outside. That's an indication of how much moisture is in the air. Dew points into the mid-low 60s. This is certainly a moist air mass out there. Certainly moisture for these systems to work with. And of course, we're watching the winds as these storms push through as well. We'll show you the current wind gust across central Ohio. Gust up to 20 in Chillicothe, 12 in Piketon, 9 in Logan, 14 Jackson. So nothing excessive right now, but once you get inside those storms, that's where we have the risk for the severe potential for severe winds. We'll go back over to the radar view here. Again, we're tracking that severe storm as it works its way through portions of the western side of the viewing areas heading toward Franklin County. It's nothing particularly organized into one spot. So we're seeing the hail producing side of the storm. It was up toward the Mills area just a little bit ago. It's going to be working its way again off to the north and east. These are moving about 45 miles per hour. So we'll put a tracker on the front edge of that system. We'll track it off to the east-northeast at about 45 miles per hour. That's going to put it in Frankfort at 7:18, 7:29 to Circleville, Clarence Creek by 7:40, Lancaster by 7:55, and Good Hope by 8:07. So this is going to move through the southern side of Franklin County here in the next little bit and potentially bring with it that threat for some hail and the threat for the damaging winds. We'll take another look inside this system here. We'll go first to the hail potential, see if that has changed much. Good news here. This looks like the hail threat has actually weakened some since we first started following this storm. We'll zoom into the area of biggest concern with the hail right now. That's just starting to hit southwestern Franklin County. It's north of Mount Sterling right now. So we are seeing some hail potential here, but this is not excessive in terms of hail. But if you're traveling along 71, it's still going to be the type of thing if you're near an exit. Maybe just take a quick detour, grab a gas, grab a snack, wait for this bit of hail to go by, because even small hail, you don't really want to be driving through about 70 miles per hour. It's kind of a messy situation out there, and people tend to slow down. And if you get into the heavy rain as well, you end up in a situation where everybody's stopping at once and maybe visibility goes down, and not something that you really want to be a part of. Speaking of visibility, let's take a look at precipitation rate, so we call it. How much rain is falling, how fast. The darker the reds and the purples and eventually up into the whites go, that shows how heavy that particular area of rain is falling. We're seeing some really heavy rain here right along 71. So the rainfall that we have in here, certainly something that's going to slow traffic down. It's going to likely lead to people stopping, cars with flashers on, cars that take shelter under overpasses. That's not what you want to do. That's not a real safe spot to be, but people do it just about every time. So this is going to cause some travel issues on 71 for sure. Take a look inside this particular area and see if we can get a measure of average rainfall rate inside this particular part of the storm. There we go. That looks to be about 2.83 inches per hour. So that's quite a lot of rain, especially in areas that we've already seen flooding here across central Ohio this evening. We'll likely see the flood threat continue to be one of the higher factors with this area of rain as it pushes through. I want to grab that area just north of Mount Sterling there. That's almost up to 3 inches per hour when it comes to rainfall rate. So this is quite a heavy rain producing storm, and we're going to see that threat continue here through the rest of the evening as well. As far as looking at the winds inside this particular storm, we'll take another view of that as well. Take the Wilmington radar here. Again, not seeing rotation signs, but we are seeing signs of strong winds coming out of the storm. So likely severe winds associated with portions of the storm as well. We'll move back a little closer towards southwestern Franklin County. Once you get toward Commercial Point, eventually probably just a little south of Grove City, heading toward the 270 loop. This area right in here would be where I would be watching for some strong to severe winds coming out of the system. And again, if you're just joining us, we'll talk about inside the storms, the winds, and usually in terms of rotation, when you see them stacked next to each other, if this was tight, for example, these reds and these greens, that could be a sign of rotation. But when they're stacked like this through the lines coming across that's a sign of strong winds. So we're seeing wind flow out from the downdrift of the storm into Franklin County and wind flow out from that downdraft back into Mount Sterling. So this is an area here, again, that I would watch for some potential severe winds. This doesn't look like anything excessively destructive, but we could be looking at 50, 60 mile per hour winds that potentially could be coming from the system as it works its way into southern Franklin County. And that's certainly part of the reason why it does have that severe thunderstorm warning in place. We go back over to the radar right now. You can see the lightning in here. Certainly another threat with these systems tonight is going to be the lightning, but But again, as we mentioned, the heavy rain. If you were watching our newscast earlier tonight, we were talking about the flooding that's already ongoing, some evacuations that were over toward Newark, and then, of course, the flood walls that have been going up across the region, too, as we've really just gotten soaked across the 10 TV viewing area here in the last 48 hours, and we're only adding to it with these heavy showers coming through, producing rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour, at least radar estimated rainfall rates. And based on what we've seen so far, I would definitely believe that those rainfall rates are coming down close to that number. I want to show you the rainfall estimate over the last 24 hours across the state. Anywhere where you get into those purples, we're talking over 1.5 inches of rain. When you get into the reds, we're talking over 2 inches, 2.5 inches of rain. So in the last 24 hours, we've seen a lot of that play out across the region. Again, keep in mind, these are better estimates the closer you get to radars. So not a one-to-one example, but it just gives you an idea of how much rain has fallen in the last 24 hours. And it's really been quite a bit. And that flooding going to be a concern as we head into the evening. Of course, once we get past these rounds of storms, later tonight, hopefully we can start to quiet things back down, but we'll put this in motion here and just show you the storms pushing through. Jerry, it's been an active evening so far, and one that is likely going to stay at least somewhat active for the next little while.
Yeah, you're right, Michael. You talked about one of the main things we've been watching and hearing, of course, the heavy rain and the lightning and the thunder, but also the opportunity for that rainfall. Many locations have already seen 1, 2, 3, even 4 inches of rain over the past 48 hours, and this is just adding to that problem. And that's why, in addition to the severe thunderstorm warning that we're seeing right now, everybody is under a flood watch through later on tonight. In several locations, and some along the Scioto River, for example, are under flood warnings, river flood warnings that go through another day and possibly even into later this week. So just one of those things to keep in mind. Even though we're not seeing perhaps imminent direct severe weather, we are seeing the lingering effects of this rainfall on top of the previous rainfall, and that's just, again, really complicating things there. So closer inspection to that particular storm right now. We've got a couple on the map. Let's just kind of take you a wider perspective right now that will allow you to see the bigger picture. So a statewide perspective does show a couple spots that we're watching and looking at. Thunderstorm cluster moving away toward Cleveland. Another cluster moving toward Toledo. This one again weakening as it gets toward the Great Lakes. Second one we're watching that move through and it kind of pushing a little bit of lightning and some thunder. This passing just past Lakeview, Ohio, where they had that EF3 tornado in Logan County just about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. Then we're focusing on a blossoming area of some rain north of Columbus. That's Delaware County. At this time, while that's blossoming, it looks like it's growing. It doesn't have any thunder, so indications are downpours and gusty winds, but not a thunderstorm and not likely at the moment a severe threat. Further off toward the south, we're seeing this severe thunderstorm warning south of Columbus and around Franklin County. And then furthermore, we're seeing some pretty robust storms soon to be affecting areas around Ross and Pike County. And that area, I'm thinking right now at about 723, has the greatest opportunity to tap into areas that haven't seen a lot over the past couple of hours, and possibly some severe weather there, either severe thunderstorms or possibly even tornado warnings. That's speculation at this point, but that's from the eye test what appears to be most threatening at this time. So let's take a closer inspection of some of these particular storms right now, and that will be an opportunity. Oh, let me go back to that and just pause things for us. An opportunity for a closer inspection on some of those particular cells. That would be right here to the northwest of Columbus. Let me bring this up to current time for us. That would get us current. There we go, right now. And the one I'm focused on right now is just north of Bell Fountain, and that's moving over toward Hardin County, moving northeast at about 45 to 50 miles an hour. So looking at the track of that particular storm, that does show an opportunity for, let me get to the right tool here. That does show an opportunity for that storm to be moving northeast at a pretty good clip and impacting areas just outside of Logan County and Bell Fountain. Closer inspection then does show the area that we're looking at just in the northeastern periphery of that particular storm. If I can go back to that and clear that out of there for a second. No, I pressed the wrong button there, Michael. Just trying to clear things out and get back to ground zero there. Oh, that helped. Thank you. So we were looking at that area just northwest of Columbus in and around Logan County. Allow me the opportunity to try and get there for us. We'll zoom into that. Oh, that didn't quite do it, did it? So if you can see, I'm kind of kicking the rust off of these interactivity tools at the key wall here, so bear with me on 10 TV Plus for a second, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So this particular storm right now, Thunderstorms, some lightning, some downpours where, of course, they don't need or want any more rain, and that's lifting off toward Kenton and Hardin County. Not a severe storm right now, but certainly something that we are paying attention to and watching very closely. Further off toward the south and east, we'll do another radar scan for you. Notice, too, the back edge of this severe thunderstorm warning now is exiting parts of Madison County and Fayette County. That's good news. Still impacting areas around Washington Courthouse and southern parts of Franklin County, but it has not yet been extended. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, given the current intensity of the storm. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of lightning, and as Michael showed earlier, the opportunity for some of those thunderstorms producing some hail, but it looks like the chance there is pretty few and far between to expand that further still. So take a look at some of the values that we're watching at and the hail right here. What we're looking at, this actually crossing now over into Franklin County, and where we see this, that basically is a measurement from the bottom to the top of how much liquid is in that, and if there's ice in that particular column, then that's usually a pretty good indication that is kind of saturated and there's a lot of moisture, basically in the form of ice because it's very dense. Bottom line is where we see this a little bit over in the southeastern corner of Franklin County, and most notably just about to cross over from Commercial Point toward Orient. That's most likely some sizable hail. So if you are in the path of that particular storm, that's something that you probably want to keep wary of. And if we're looking at, Michael, where would I find the a track tool if I wanted to put a track on that guy?
Tracking.
That would certainly make sense, wouldn't it? Tracking, there we go. So if I wanted to put a little track on that and then move it northeast at about 45 miles an hour. Yep. Is that right? That's really stretching out there, isn't it? Walk backwards. There we go. So those areas we're looking at, if this hailstorm holds together around Millport, around Asheville, around Lithopolis, Kirklesville, and Buckeye Lake, and that would be locations that would be under the impact for this particular cell. So I'm going to give my arm a rest and kind of tag team you back into the chroma key there. But it does look like the opportunity is there for some of these stronger cells, but we've been at this for about 20 or 30 minutes, and I haven't seen indications that any of those cells are going tornadic.
Yeah, the cells here in central Ohio, thankfully, are not. There is one that we'll have to watch further to the south that could be entering down toward Pike County here in the next little bit. Does have a tornado warning just outside of the 10 TV viewing area. So we'll reset the view here across the region and switch back over to the radar and show you the latest on that particular cell. That's going to be down toward the southwest. Real little tornado warning down there just to the southwest of Washington Courthouse. So we'll zoom into that particular portion of the storm as well. This is going to be just a real small tornado warning that's down across portions of, I don't quite have that county name with me at the moment. Still working on some of those counties outside of the viewing area. I believe that is in Highland County. Highland County and Brown County. So that eventually could lead toward Pike and Ross, and that would be in the 10 TV viewing area. They issued this tornado warning, just radar indicated tornado warning, down toward the southwest of Dodson. This is going to be across US 50 here, working its way toward Hillsboro. This particular storm moving east at about 35 miles per hour. We'll put a storm cone on that storm as well. Track that off to the east at about 35 miles per hour. Always a little bit further than you think it's going to be when you draw those storm maps out. So we'll zoom out just a little bit here, give ourselves a little more space, and then we'll put that tracking on there again because it's moving about 35 miles per hour off to the east. The tracking of those systems moving fairly fast here this evening, 45 to 35 miles per hour across the region. That'll put us in the Allensburg region by 7:38 into Hoagland area by 7:47, Hillsboro at 7:54, and Berrysville by 8 o'clock, toward Marshall by 8:07, and Brush Creek by 8:14. So this is going to be something to watch carefully as it develops and heads off toward portions of Pike County, Ross County. Those will be something to watch carefully if they expand this tornado warning or if they only have the one off. I want to take a look inside this particular storm, see if we do see any of those rotation indicators out there, and it certainly does look like we are seeing some indicators of rotation with this particular portion of the system right there along that U.S. highway heading into the county there, just southeast of St. Martin, southwest of Webertown. This is going to be right along slightly north of US 50. It's going to be heading toward the Dodson area. That's going to be a close area to watch. If you're in the St. Martin area right now, you're likely getting just past the system at the moment. But we're seeing some of those rotation signs in this particular portion of the storm. We'll zoom out here just a little bit, give you a better view.
Michael, breaking news. I don't want to interrupt you, but I will quickly. That severe thunderstorm warning, Franklin County has been extended. I think I jinxed it by putting out the hail track on that particular storm. That has been extended to northeast until 8:15. So I know you were tracking that cell that is just outside of the viewing area, but if you don't mind, just taking a quick look into that one that is impacting the rest of Franklin County until 8:15.
Yeah. What were the threats on it? Mostly toward the hail, Jerry, or toward the wind as well?
Yeah, there's some hail cores with that. That's showing up to 1 inch max hail size, max wind gust up to 60 miles an hour, and that's moving east at 40 miles an hour.
So storm moving east at 40 miles per hour. You can see some of the heavier areas working its way into southern portions of Franklin County. The warning does include, it looks like downtown Columbus, just barely on the northern fringe of the warning. Most of the threat likely going to be further south than 70, down toward even north of Asheville, heading toward Groveport, Pinkerton, pretty directly, eventually off toward Pataskala and Buckeye Lake. We'll see this storm system move your way. The hail, as Jerry was talking about, a concern inside this particular cell. So we'll go back to the hail view here, and these storms ramp up and down. As we were tracking it to the southwest of Mount Sterling, it was a little bit more impressive, then it got less impressive as it head toward Mount Sterling. Now we're going back in the upward phase of this particular cell, and that hail core there getting a little bit closer to the interstate than it was a little while ago. So this is getting pretty much right along I-70 here. It's going to be crossing over Ohio 665 here in very short order, if not already starting to see hail there across the state highway. This hail here likely, I would say, what were they saying, about quarter-size hail there, Jerry? Yeah,
with that storm in southwestern Franklin County. Yeah, it was up to 1 inch was the max size, but I didn't see anything reports on the currents, but let me take a look.
Okay. And you said it was east-northeast at about 45 miles per hour, correct?
That was going east at 40.
East at 40, okay.
Yep.
So again, that's going to be heading more or less toward Groveport, Pickerington, eventually off toward Buckeye Lake as well. So we'll put a storm track on the hail portion of that thunderstorm. We'll go for the slightly bigger track here. We'll track the entirety of that hail core off to the east, 40 miles per hour. And there we go. It's going to be in Lockburn at 7:35, 7:49 in Elthopolis, 8:07 in Baltimore, Pleasantville at 8:13, and Summerest at 8:32. So the portion of the storm that is producing the hail, a smaller portion of the storm than the actual size of the area, getting heavy rain and seeing the lightning right now. So that's going to be something to keep in mind, that the entire storm is not producing hail, but it could be producing some of those strong winds, winds 60 mile per hour, or certainly the heavy rain and the frequent lightning. The lightning that you're seeing on the screen here, I believe it's the last 10 minutes or so. So we're seeing a good bit of lightning across Franklin County in areas off toward the east, over toward Licking County, up toward Buckeye Lake, seeing that lightning in there. Lots of heavy rain inside this system, and just to keep a close eye on it, because the environment was so primed for rotating thunderstorms today, we want to make sure that these storms are not doing the rotation. So we'll do the Columbus radar, because we're pretty close to that here, see what we see inside of that storm system. Certainly seeing some heavy winds, some high winds heading toward the Lockburn area, portions of Franklin County. Nothing in there screams rotation to me at the moment, so that's good news from what I can see there. Further back up and along the stream here, again, I'm not seeing anything that screams rotation to me. Jerry, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It looks like something that's just mentioned before, kind of the outflow from the storm going in a bit of a different direction. Michael, I actually have a couple of pictures in there of a double rainbow taking in parts of Delaware County right now. You can check on the laptop there. trying to find a bit of a silver lining in some of the fray that we're looking at from the thunderstorms this evening. And we always encourage you, of course, you can download the 10 TV app as a way to stay connected. If you lose power, you can stream, as you're probably watching us right now on 10 TV Plus. But the other way to stay connected is to help us see what you're seeing. If you're seeing hail, high winds, damage, double rainbows, puppy dogs, it doesn't matter what the situation might be. We always like to hear from our audience, and that's just really an opportunity for us to do that. If you download the 10 TV app, it comes right into our station, and we're able to see that very, very quickly. So the one thing we've been watching is the tracking of the severe weather and the potential there. So that lightning kind of came on suddenly. It might have caught you a bit by surprise, but we're seeing a lot of lightning and kind of the track of this particular storm. And it's really the only game in town right now. And literally, I mean, in and around Columbus and the metro, this particular storm producing a lot of lightning and some hail up to 1 inch. It's part of the reason, of course, along with the possibility of some winds up to 60 miles an hour, the National Weather Service has expanded that severe thunderstorm warning. That goes a little further off toward the north and the east. So let's get you back to our radar view here, which takes a little bit more of a perspective. You do see the back edge of the first severe thunderstorm warning. That clears London, just about to clear Mount Sterling, but it also means it looks a little troublesome for Lockbourne and down toward just north of Washington Courthouse and just north of Circleville. Lancaster, you're on the edge. Buckeye Lake, you're right under the threat. And if you saw that flash go by or that radar scope, when it went past this particular area, just north of 33, that's more than likely where we're seeing the most dense radar return. And that is almost always assuredly a sign of some hail. And that's what we've been watching over the past couple of hours. Not widespread. We're talking maybe only a mile or two wide, but the possibility of 1 inch plus hail is not out of the question, as you just saw again from that particular radar scope. So let's expand this view just a bit and put this into perspective for you as we're looking at several areas of active weather, but at the moment only real 1 or 2 areas of potentially severe weather. This one being, again, the severe thunderstorm warning that's outlined. It captures Newark. It stops short of Zanesville. It cuts right through northwestern parts of Perry County, just north of Lancaster and Fairfield County. This severe thunderstorm warning for up to 60-mile-an-hour winds and 1 inch hail is in effect until 8:15. The thunderstorm warning just behind that, as you can already see the back edge being carved out, that is until 7:45 p.m. So if you're joining us on 10 TV Plus, we appreciate you and thank you for that. We're going to be kind of walking through the severe weather and the threats, the wheres and the whens and the what to do's for the next several minutes here. But right now, the focus is clearly on this active weather southeast of Columbus. Again, just to reiterate, this area, this outline, this is a severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 8:15. The one behind that until 7:45. Aside from those 2 areas, we're not seeing anything in the way of severe weather, although as soon as I said that, again, I may have jinxed us again, Michael. Looking at those thunderstorms to the south, that opportunity there, it looks like it is for an additional warning that might impact areas in and around southern Pike County.
Yeah, that new severe thunderstorm warning includes Adams County, southern Pike County, and Scioto County. That's going to go until 7:35 here this evening. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, quarter-size hail possible if that storm further to the south. It's just, again, tracking right along the southern side of Pike County. And the concern is going to be related to could this produce a tornado at some point? And just on the southern side of the viewing area, right south of Georgetown, north of Maysville, down into Kentucky, that is a confirmed tornado warning. So that'll be what we'll watch as that system tracks further off to the north and east. And
there has been some debris reported with that particular storm, and that's the one that we're watching then across this Ohio River. Again, a little bit outside of the 10 TV viewing area, but these storms have been moving a little bit north of east. So this would put perhaps Pike County under the threat. Currently under a severe thunderstorm warning in Pike County for a few more minutes. Or a little while longer, I should say, but the reason is the back end of the storm looks very ominous and has confirmed tornado being reported from that particular storm. But let's go back again and closer to home, closer to Columbus. That does show the area we're watching right now. Northwestern Franklin County, Westerville some rain, Dublin some rain, Plain City, Hilliard, West Jeff. That area, again, some plain rain. It's literally the southeastern corner, almost right along I-71 and then south and east, where we're seeing the most active weather right now. Just south of the airport, so if you have somebody coming and going, perhaps in and out of John Glenn, might be some delays there or some ground stoppages. South of that, we're looking at heavier rain, Grove City over to Groveport, Pickerington, and then as we expand this view just a little bit further, you'll be able to see the areas off toward the north and east, wrong way, off toward the north and east. That area is what we're watching and where that storm is headed toward right now. So we'll take a closer inspection of that, heading over toward Licking County, Newark, just north of 70 toward Zanesville. This storm right now is not yet under a severe thunderstorm warning, but it could be as this area begins to move off toward the east at about 40 miles an hour. So where you're seeing that deeper red, let's take a closer inspection to some of those communities right now. We're looking at right now just to the south and east of Franklin County. This area in the corner of Licking County, Pataskala, Buckeye Lake, Granville, Newark, probably some familiar names there in Licking County. And then as we're looking at the area just south of that, we're over toward Pickerington, just northwest of Pleasantville, soon to be not so pleasant. Groveport getting hit pretty hard with some gusty winds, heavy rain, lightning, and some hail. Asheville also right on the edge of some of the worst weather that we're seeing, and Lancaster just on the southern edge of that particular storm. And you do see that outline again. That is with that latest severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 8:15. So we're watching these areas of thunderstorms. We're looking at the different areas in particular. One of the things, the most notable area that we've been watching, the threat I should say, has been the hail. So what we're looking at from the meteorologist's perspective is kind of helping the radar dissect these particular storms. And what it's showing us right now is the area just to the south and east of Columbus. Obviously the area in the green, that's indicative of hail. But what we're measuring with this, call it VIL or vertically integrated liquid, that basically is showing us where the column from bottom to top is particularly heavy or dense with water, in this case ice. So it's not a guarantee, but it's a pretty sure bet that the area south of Groveport and heading over toward Pickerington is seeing some hail. So we'll take a second there and look at a closer inspection of that particular path of the storm and what may be an opportunity for some stronger hail there. If I can move just a little bit further off toward the west, we'll do that. And that will take the area just south of 33, just northwest of Lithopolis. There's Groveport, south of Obetz, and northeast of the airport at Lockbourne. This isn't a regular radar scan that you're looking at. We're just using a different tool in case you're just joining us on 10 TV Plus. This particular tool right here is looking inside the storm and telling us where there might be most significant hail. So we haven't seen any reports, Michael, unless I'm missing something. You're kind of plugged in over there in the weather center of what might be other reports of some particularly strong winds or some hail. But overall, it's looking more and more like the situation is focusing across the southern parts of the viewing area, number one. And mercifully at this point, while we've seen some severe thunderstorm warnings, we haven't yet seen tornado warnings in the 10 TV viewing area. Yeah, I haven't seen the tornado warnings here in the 10 TV viewing area, but the concern, like you said, is going to be the areas that haven't really been worked over with the rain yet. We're talking southeastern portions of the 10 TV viewing area here this evening. Good news is what's working its way up through Logan County back to the north and west looks a little bit weaker than it did originally, so that's good news for those folks up there. They certainly don't need any more severe weather. We continue to track that wind-producing and hail-producing storm heading through southern Franklin County, working its way off toward Licking County at this hour. But the concern is going to be that southern side of the 10 TV viewing area, and that's where I want to focus things here for the next little bit. In fact, as you head down toward Pike County, southern side of the county is under a severe thunderstorm warning with the potential for a tornado. And then if we travel just a little bit further south of there, that's where we have the tornado warnings in place right now. Two tornado warnings down there, one that's working its way just ever so close to Pike County, south of Pebbles. The other one north of Maysville. That's the one where spotters did report a tornado with that storm. So this is going to be the one to watch as it travels toward Pike County here to see if it does continue producing a tornado. It may just impact the far southern side of the 10 TV viewing area. Inside this particular thunderstorm, we'll switch over to the view that gives us a shot of the winds, and I would say without much hesitation that's certainly warranting that tornado warning down on the southern side of Ohio right now. We'll zoom in even a little bit closer to what we're looking at here on the map. It's traveling right now, I believe, just out of Brown County, and we were talking about earlier in this webcast the differences in the winds in the system and how you can tell where the winds are flowing. This would be a sign of rotating winds. So we'll put the arrows back on the map here again as well, where you see those lines traveling through the colors. That is where the radar beam is coming from. So what we have here is winds coming in toward the radar and winds going
away from the radar, and that's the rotation that is working its way just south of Ohio 125. That's going to be heading toward the West Union area, toward Ohio 247, and eventually, if it continues on this track, possibly into southern Pike County as well. So I want to zoom out just a little bit, put a storm track on this particular portion of the system as well, because this system moving off, I believe, at around 35-40 miles per hour. So not the fastest moving system in the world, but something that's going to be heading close to the 10 TV viewing area in about the next hour or so. As we track that off at about 35 miles per hour, that's going to put it in West Union by 7:53, the Duncansville area by 8:02, Cedar Mills 8:07, Beaver Pond by 8:16, and Jaybird by about 8:20. You can see over toward Lucasville, it'll be there about an hour from now, 8:43. So this is going to be something to watch very carefully on the southern side of the viewing area, where this goes over the next hour. Again, you can see the tornado warning there with the black line and the yellow. That is going to be heading off close to Pike County. Again, could potentially see the first tornado warning of the evening in the 10 TV viewing area if that portion of the cell holds together. As far as if anything else is rotating in this line of storms, haven't really seen too much of it so far here tonight. We'll lock in the Wilmington radar here, and we'll just kind of walk our way up toward Columbus and see if anything else looks more concerning than what we're seeing down toward the south. We travel up toward Pike County, Ross County. Not seeing too much right now in that system. Looks everything to be mostly okay. We travel up toward Circleville, Lancaster area, up toward Franklin County. Again, nothing in here to me that is screaming tornadic storm at the moment. We'll switch over to the Columbus radar as we come into the Columbus Metro, give you a better view inside these storms. And again, nothing screaming at me here that would be tornado. This little feature down here kind of would be the wrong direction. Would be an anti-cyclonic tornado. That would be very rare, not impossible, but not very likely either. We'll work our way a little bit further up the map here as well toward Licking County, Mount Vernon. Nothing particularly, again, screaming at me here. Does look like, again, though, lots of wind potential. You can kind of see that bright differentiation here along the line toward Lancaster. That could certainly be some really gusty wind working its way in toward the area right now, and you can kind of see that bowing segment of the storm, and that would be very much one-to-one with wind potential. The more you see that kind of bowing curve, the more you get the potential for some strong winds. So that would not be unexpected to see with that system as it works its way in. We'll track this particular area as well. We'll put the bigger track on it just to track the area that could be producing the strong winds at this time. Oh, looks like I grabbed the wrong tool there. We'll go back to the squall, track that area right in along there. Helps if I hit the right button. There we go. And that particular part of the storm moving again about 45 miles per hour. That's going to be in Baltimore at 7:55, Buckeye Lake at 8:02, Glenford at 8:17, Hopewell at 8:27, and Zanesville by 8:41. So certainly could see some strong winds in addition to the hail out there tonight, Jerry. Yeah,
I've been watching that threat, Michael, and it continues to evolve slowly in some spots and other spots not at all, which is welcome news. We've been talking and watching about these ingredients coming together. And if you're joining us on 10 TV Plus for extended coverage this evening, we appreciate that and thank you. We're not breaking into regular WBNS programming unless there is a tornado warning for our viewing area, and fortunately that's the case. So you'll probably have a lot of ramp up and some hype leading up to this evening, this event, and for good reason. There is all the ingredients in place, and there still are in some locations, but fortunately it looks like at the moment at 7:48 that opportunity in the severe threat for tornadoes for the most part is declining, and that is good news. So as we talked about earlier, we're tracking mainly right now a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings across central Ohio, most notably the one in and around Franklin County and also including Licking County and Fairfield County. That goes until 8:15 p.m. Further off toward the south, there's another severe thunderstorm warning on the front edge of a tornado warning, and we're watching that closely because while it is certainly far away from central Ohio, so to speak, right on the Ohio River, this second part of the storm might actually impact extreme southern parts of Pike County. It's an outside shot, but it's not zero, and that's why we're at least showing this particular cell right now. But clearly our focus is with this line as it moves and continues to move off toward the north, and that includes areas pretty much right now along in southeast of I-71. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and we'll expand this view just a bit right now, while we are looking for the chance for these thunderstorms to continue to be strong or severe and move off toward the northeast, so areas perhaps like Licking County, parts of Muskegon County, perhaps Coshocton County, Perry County, you might see a severe thunderstorm warning if this recent history holds together. We're also watching a nice lull, but there's a single little line that is off toward the west. So I'm going to stretch the limits of my interactivity here, Michael, and do a cold front that basically shows, it's not going to work, is it? But imagine, if you will, connecting these dots, a cold front right to our west. So that area right now is what we're watching very carefully. Even with the storms coming through right now, this cold front still has 1 or 2 hours before it actually gets into central Ohio. As it does, at the very least, thank you very much, it's going to just imagine, there you go, right as a cold front. It's going to be producing a line or two of thunderstorms along that front itself. Behind that, severe weather threat goes to 0, and that's expected to be between 10 o'clock and midnight from west to east. Ahead of that, in addition to what we're seeing right now with this cluster of thunderstorms around Columbus Metro, that there will be some gusty showers and downpours. I don't think, if this plays out as I think, that there's going to be enough energy left for these thunderstorms with the cold front, but just by its inherent nature, the cold front is very active and very dynamic, the leading edge of much colder air that will be coming into the area as we get through the next couple of days, that it's going to stir up some thunderstorms and some gusty winds. So again, we're watching that very closely, and that will be the case again between about 10 o'clock and midnight from west to east. But in terms of our most immediate threat and what we're looking at right now, and why we're on extended coverage on 10 TV Plus, we'll call it at least for another 9 more minutes. We'll go to about 8 o'clock here. That does show the area of focus right now, really twofold. One across extreme southern Ohio, that being down near Adams and Scioto County, not barely reaching into Pike County, and hopefully it won't. This particular cell right here in this cluster of thunderstorms, that is with a severe thunderstorm warning that I thought goes until about 8:15, so that gives us a few more minutes. But again, it's not showing indications, Michael, of strengthening or weakening, just kind of status quo right now. So that puts areas that we talked about a little bit ago around Newark, around just northeast of Circleville, north of Lancaster, those areas in southeastern Franklin County are pretty much in the clear and will be there very, very soon, but still watching carefully the areas northeastern Licking County and over towards Zanesville, perhaps getting close to Utica and north of New Lexington over the next 30 or 60 minutes.
Yeah, certainly going to keep a close eye on that storm as it pushes off toward the east. Hopefully it does not get any stronger, continues on as it's been doing, because we had a lot of ingredients in place today for severe weather. And honestly, what I would say we've seen, Jerry, is just too much rain. We've gotten just too much rain in here for these storms to get organized enough to get severe. Is that what you would, I guess, agree with that sort of assessment here?
We mentioned a couple of terms like the atmosphere being worked over. That means there's several rounds of rain or storms that kind of cool things down and calm it down. But we actually talked about this before. There has been just so much rain over the past couple of days, and it's possible that it just went so far as to stabilize the central Ohio atmosphere that it really just cannot support these strong thunderstorms. And for that, we are grateful, but we're just trying to find some reasons, while every one of these situations is unique and different, that might be a common thing that we've seen before.
Yeah, when you get too many storms fighting for the available energy, I mean, you can imagine it like a herd of kittens fighting for the kibble. I mean, one of them, if he's able to gather enough kibble, get real fat. That's your kind of fat, strong thunderstorm. But if they're all kind of fighting for it and they all get little scraps and pieces, well, you got a lot of healthy storms out there, but none of them that really becomes the I guess, Hulk of the group. So
yeah, great analogy.
A way to put it out there. So that's what we're seeing right now. None of these storms particularly becoming an outlier of what we're seeing out here in central Ohio. Just the wind, just the hail threat with this. And it's not even as big of a hail threat as we saw over this past weekend. If you're with us on Saturday, we had a lot of hailer thunderstorms and one really strong rotating thunderstorm over toward Guernsey County. We're not seeing that right now. Just a lot of heavy rain, but but the concern will be once that heavy rain gets into the eastern portions of the viewing area, they're already under a flash flood warning. So we're likely going to see flooding become the dominant impact from this system as we head through tonight and into tomorrow. Really the overnight hours to watch carefully. And it looks like we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning just now issued as well. That's going to be down in Fairfield County, and they are indicating some rotation with that. So we just might jinx it too much talking about the fact that we're lucking out here. That new severe thunderstorm warning, Jerry, what are the details that you're seeing from this guy
So
here?
that just came out moments ago, and that severe thunderstorm warning, 1-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour gusts, and that severe thunderstorm is moving. It goes until 8:30, and that's moving east at about 45 miles an hour. That's for Fairfield County and north central Hocking County until, again, 8:30.
And if I could take a look inside this storm here, see what the concern might be for rotation, it might be that spot that we were talking about just about 10 minutes ago, where you said it might be a little bit unusual type of rotation, but that could be it right down in there, south of Ohio 188. We'll put the arrows on here, and this is winds here away from the radar, winds toward the radar. I would say this right here is our best circulation that we've seen so far this evening here in central Ohio, and we're gonna have to watch these next few scans very carefully to see how this develops as it works its way into Fairfield County, eventually over toward US 33 north of US 22. See how this changes over the next little bit, because if we keep seeing scans like we're seeing, then it could be a little bit more alarming. New data just came in here. It didn't look like it strengthened any from the last scan, but this is going to be the one to watch, and I want to get a couple different views of this particular portion of the storm from a couple different radars just to see if we see anything different on the different views. We'll switch over to the Wilmington radar first here. Again, kind of same area, slightly more displaced as we look at a radar that's further away from the storm. Could see some rotation in the clouds up here. Again, really the same area, Ohio 188. This is looking higher in the storm as it comes from the Wilmington, Ohio National Weather Service office. So this seeing some rotation higher up in the clouds there. In fact, we'll take a bigger view, zoom back out here as well. We'll just sort of generically zoom out from the Rockmill area. Again, some rotation up there in the clouds on that view. I don't think we're going to get a better view from any of the other radars other than what we had there from Columbus. We'll switch to, we'll go to Charleston for a quick moment as well. Yeah. Again, same area, up in the clouds, kind of seeing that rotation going on away from the radar toward the radar, and then the radar view from Columbus showing that portion of rotation a little bit more clearly as we get closer to that radar. And again, yeah, it's just that point right there that's going to be something to watch, Jerry.
It is certainly something we're watching. I was looking at some model data. If you could tap dance for another 30 seconds, because we've been watching and doing a pretty good job, I think, of just giving some extended coverage. And the model data still suggests that there will be the opportunity for some rotating thunderstorms and some of the variables that we look at. But really that cuts off quickly once we get past 9, 10 o'clock. So we still have another hour or so to go, and hence that tornado watch. But the one thing you pointed out, no matter which vantage point you're looking at, Michael, from that particular cell, that it is very, very tight, but it's been very consistent. And that's a little worrisome, especially from different radar vantage points, and then looking from different radar sites. Just updated again, as you saw that slight shift to the east. And what we're looking at, if you're just joining us on 10 TV Plus, is kind of really zooming into a particular thunderstorm cell. This isn't normally what you might see on your phone or if you're watching a normal weathercast, but what it's looking at right now is peering inside the middle levels of the cloud in the thunderstorm and seeing where there might be some wind coming toward the radar and some wind going away. As you know, not all thunderstorms rotate, but most thunderstorms that rotate are responsible for at least some of the tornadoes that we see. So it looks like that might be an opportunity for just that. We're looking again south of Royalton Road, south of 188, just northwest of Amanda and Clear Creek. Those areas are currently under a severe thunderstorm warning. So we're going to zoom out just a little bit to give you some perspective there. But this is the area that we're looking at and watching. So actually, if we zoom out just a little further, you can see a little more clarity that difference in the wind where that green and where that red is coming together. Now, that's not a good sign. And as meteorologists, even if you're just joining us, you might wonder why we're taking the time to spend particular attention on this cell. The other cells that we're watching that are under a severe thunderstorm warning, those are mainly hail, 1-inch hail and up to 60-mile-an-hour wind producers. But the one we're looking at right now continues to be something that we're watching rather closely, as it is the potential for producing a tornado. It's not right now, but it has, of the storms that we're looking at right now, it does have the potential to do just that. So I'm sure while I'm looking at this radar scan and moving around and giving you some perspective, that Michael's doing some additional diagnostics on this particular thunderstorm as we are moving around the map. So just to kind of recenter things for you, if you're just joining us, we are watching and tracking the severe weather across central Ohio. This does show a couple areas of concern and a couple areas where we're not concerned, almost as important. For example, Bell Fountain, Delaware, Marysville, Urbana, Marion, you're going to get some thunderstorms, but at this point, those thunderstorms have not and probably will not become severe.
Actually, we need to go ahead to our friends there in the back. We need to cut into 10 TV on the air at the moment. Tornado warning for Fairfield and Hocking counties. We need to reset and cut into our regular broadcast programming, please.
Jerry March, joined with meteorologist Michael Behrens, and we've been tracking the severe weather on 10 TV Plus, and literally as we're diagnosing this thunderstorm in Fairfield County, it has gone tornadic. It showed some rotation right now, but the National Weather Service out of Wilmington has now confirmed or issued that tornado warning. Now, there's a lot going on right now, but what we really want to focus in areas south and east of Columbus in central and southern parts of Fairfield County. This does include Lancaster and the areas that we're watching most closely in the just northwest of Bern, around Lancaster, northeast of Clear Creek, and that extends all the way over to Bremen, south of Rushville. Again, there's a lot of noise on the screen, a lot of colors and a lot of lines, but we're really just focusing on the southern part of the county. This thunderstorm has a history of rotation that we saw in the western part of the county, and now it looks like that is enough to produce at least a threat for a tornado as it moves to the east. This tornado warning for Fairfield and Hocking County goes until 8:30 this evening. Not just a tornado threat, but also the possibility of some hail as it moves to the east. And what's the speed on that particular storm, Michael?
That storm's moving to the east at about 30 miles per hour.
So it's slowed down a little bit for some of its near neighbors earlier in the evening, but the direction has been consistent. So we're going to stay on as long as this tornado warning is active within the 10 TV viewing area. At this point, that goes until about 8:30. So if you are in locations southern Franklin County, around Bern, Lancaster, or heading over toward Bremen, or anywhere in between, possibly even Rushville, those are the things that we're looking at. Those are the locations that we're looking at for a possible tornado. We've talked about this, unfortunately, already a couple of times this spring. February and March, and now it's April. And what we're looking at right now on the radar scan is where we see the red and the green coming together. That's an indication inside the thunderstorm that it's rotating, and oftentimes that's a precursor to when that rotation reaches the ground and it could form a tornado. So if you're around Amanda, Lancaster, again Bern, or further off toward the east around Bremen and Rushville, those are the locations that I'm encouraging you or urging you now, please. You had your opportunity to make a plan. This is one location that is under the threat of a tornado. Now's the time to put your plan in motion. A quick track on that storm for the next 20 or 30 minutes. Lancaster at 8:12, White's at 8:15, Junction City, if it makes it far enough, into 8:59 p.m. Again, a new tornado warning issued for Fairfield and Hocking County that goes until 8:30. And the reason is a radar indicated tornado could be impacting areas that we just mentioned, Lancaster, North Bern, and Junction City, and possibly New Lexington by 8:52. What I was getting at is that we've been through this a couple of times already this spring and this winter, actually. Do what you can to keep you and your family safe. go to a safe place, take your phone with you. You watch the stream on the mobile app. You don't have to be connected to a television, and you want to simply put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you are in a mobile home, you want to try and get out and get to a sturdy structure, at the very least an interior room. If you are in a home that does not have a basement, you want to put as many walls between you and the exterior. Maybe that's an interior bathroom or a hallway. If you do have a basement, you want to go to the basement immediately. Take your pets, take your shoes, take your flashlight, take your phone and a charger, and do it quick. You probably have those things already. We've been talking about the threat for severe weather for the past couple of days, and now, unfortunately, it's upon us. And that area we're watching right now, if you look at this outline in yellow, this literally is just the southern part of Fairfield County, centered around Lancaster and Bremen and Sugar Grove, and moving east at about 30 miles an hour. Right now, Somerset, New Lexington, and Salt Lake are not under the threat for this tornado, but if you are watching us this evening, you know that these warnings sometimes have a history of extending, so please be on guard in Perry County. But currently, this tornado warning is in effect for Fairfield County and goes until 8:30. So we've been watching and tracking the storms. Again, if you're just joining us, Chief Meteorologist Jerry Martz, along with Michael Behrens, watching the weather. And what we saw over the past couple of scans, Michael, and I'm going to have to tag team you into the chroma key here, is some of these storms have been showing some rotation. This one in particular, no matter which vantage point we were looking at, was showing consistent rotation. And it looks like that's what prompted the National Weather Service to initiate that tornado warning.
Yeah, it wasn't just the one radar showing the one scan of rotation. Really, you take a totality of the different radar sources we have available to us here in Central Ohio. You put it together and you can get a better idea of what's going on inside this thunderstorm. So again, that tornado warning in place for Fairfield County goes till 8:30 tonight for the rotating part of this thunderstorm that's been on the south side of this system here. We'll switch over again to the winds inside and off the Columbus radar. That's where you see the rotation heading pretty close to US 33 there. This is going to be moving close to, if not just through the southern side of Lancaster. If we do see a tornado form from this, if there's good news with this, it's not the tightest rotation we've ever seen on the radar there. The rotating storms that we saw a few weeks ago had some stronger signs of rotation with it, but inside this system, that cell is rotating and could quickly produce a tornado, the reason they've issued that tornado warning here this evening. I'll switch over to another couple of views here. We'll take the other radars. We'll go to Wilmington first and show you what we mean by up through the thunderstorm. This system's rotating. This radar comes from a further away vantage point, so you're not going to see as close to the ground, but you are still going to see some of the same indications in this storm, where you have winds in one spot going toward the radar, winds in another spot going away from the radar. So this is rotation up inside the thunderstorm, and a rotation getting closer to the surface when you look at the Columbus radar. We'll show you another view from over in West Virginia, the Charleston radar. Same idea. Again, you see those areas of rotation where you have one spot the wind coming toward the radar, and the other spot the wind going away from the radar. So you put all of these confirmation sources together, and that's why the reason we have the tornado warning being issued here this afternoon or this evening in Fairfield County. As far as the Columbus radar, the tightest spot on it, again, we're watching that very carefully down there toward the Lancaster area, and still seeing some signs that this certainly could be rotating out there this evening. We'll take a closer look in toward Lancaster right now. And again, this would be the spot to be concerned with right now. That's going to be traveling just to the east of US 33, north of US 22. See if I can get a couple more roads here. If we get just a little bit closer in here. Not looking like it's going to give me them, but look at this, Ohio 188, Jerry.
So we've got a new tornado warning for southeastern Licking County. And Michael, as you were diagnosing those storms, it appears to be two areas of rotation, one of which was just west of Lancaster, but another was just west of Pleasantville and Baltimore. That's the cell I believe is the warned one right now. Some tight rotation just northeast of Carroll. And I'm picking that up on the Doppler weather radar out of the John Glenn Airport area. That's the additional tornado warning. This one also goes until 8:30. A tornado warning for southeastern Licking County, tornado and quarter-size hail. This includes Harbor Hills. This storm is moving east at about 35 miles an hour. Locations could include Heath, Grayshot, Brownsville, and Toboso. And that's something, again, that's just into the Doppler 10 Weather Center.
Yeah, that one definitely, Jerry, looking much more concerning than what we see down toward Lancaster. That one here, you can really see that rotation sort of wrapping into that storm in southern portions of Licking County, moving off toward the east, eventually toward Hopewell. This is just north of I-70. Jerry, how fast did you say that one was moving?
35 miles an hour east.
35 miles per hour to the east. So we'll zoom out here and we'll put the storm track on this particular portion of the system as well. So that sign right there south of Newark, you can really just see the twist across the entirety of the radar data. So that is going to be a much more dangerous storm, I would think, from what we're seeing down in portions of Fairfield County versus what we're seeing up in portions of Licking County. We'll track that off to the east, again, about 35 miles per hour. That's going to be in Gratiot by 8:15, Hopewell by 8:19, Dillon Falls by 8:29, and Zanesville by 8:33. That part of rotation there, Jerry, not looking like something to mess around with here this evening.
No, I'm going to hop in for a second and have you drive. But one thing I wanted to mention, too, is that we're switching over from National Weather Service offices. And that doesn't mean a whole lot to the folks at home, but it does mean that we're seeing some coordination. And we're watching these small spin-up cells begin to rotate and actually produce the threat for a tornado. This is important because this cell is moving east toward Muskingum County. And as you mentioned, around Zanesville at 8:33, that's then being picked up by the National Weather Service office out of Pittsburgh. That warning for Muskingum County is until 8:45, extending further beyond that particular one in Licking County. But just know, at the current time, there are 2 tornado warnings for central Ohio, Licking County and Fairfield County. Both of those go until 8:30. Muskingum County, that goes until 8:45. So what we're looking at, again, really focusing on the area where we're seeing that black outline with some of the yellow. That's what we're seeing, again, focusing this very, very tight circulation. And Michael, this popped up literally in minutes. We were watching the scan-by-scan approach of the storm, really focusing on Fairfield County. And just a moment ago, as that tornado warning was issued, we saw this, what we call this a couplet. Now, we're not dismissing the threat in and around Fairfield County. We're still seeing some rotation just north of Lancaster, but we're also looking at the potential here, I think, maybe a greater threat in the southeastern corner of Licking County and then moving to the east.
Yeah, I'm clearing off some of the data here except the tornado warnings right now. So all you see on the map at the moment are the tornado warnings. And we do have, talking to that coordination, a new tornado warning issued from the Pittsburgh office as well, as they're picking that storm up coming into Muskingum County. That is going to be for Muskingum County until 8:45 here tonight. National Weather Service Doppler radar indicated tornado pushing off to the east now at about 45 miles per hour. And again, the rotating signs in that storm very strong here this evening, especially compared to just anything that we've seen in central Ohio so far. We don't want to forget about the storm down in Fairfield County. It does appear to be some rotation working through the Lancaster area right now. This doesn't seem as tight to me as what is pushing up toward Licking County. But if you are over toward North Bern, if you're in Lancaster, if you're along US 22 out toward Ohio 664, do take shelter from this storm as well. But I think that threat up in Licking County is going to be the main focus here as we watch over the next hour or so as these tornado warnings continue here this evening. Very strong signs of rotation traveling just north of US 40 out there in Licking County. This is going to be working its way over Brownsville Road, southeast Brownsville Road as we speak. This is going to travel just north of Gratiot, likely probably south, if not a little slightly closer to Cottage Hill, moving north of Hopewell, and then off into Muskingum County. That's going to be heading over to the Drake area, Ellis, north of Zanesville, all areas that could see potential impacts from this rotating thunderstorm as it pushes out of portions of Licking County into Muskingum County here very shortly. Again, the area of biggest concern traveling right now through Brownsville Road. We're looking at this from the airport radar from Columbus. So we're getting pretty frequent updates on the rotating portion of this thunderstorm. But it's not quite the same radars that we have from the National Weather Service. So I do want to take a few views from their radars as well. This is the Pittsburgh radar. We're a little far away, so you can see up into the storm rotating all throughout that portion of the storm. And I want to just try to get the best view I can here that's not quite on the Columbus radar, just so we can see if we can find any signs of confirmation inside this storm. So we'll turn the Columbus radar off there. Looks like Wilmington's still going to be our best bet, and then we'll switch over inside that storm. We talk about the debris potential. That's a sign that you could see something confirmed. Not seeing anything on the radar right now. If we were to see something confirmed or more likely toward to be debris, we would not see these big broad areas of red. You would see what looks like a little ball or a little circle in here, and we're not seeing that at the moment. So that's at least some positive news looking at this system, but we go back to that velocity or the wind data inside the storm, and that is just a really rotating portion of the storm heading into eastern Licking County, working its way toward Muskingum County here this evening.
So, Michael, if we can go back to just a standard radar perspective and just step back from the diagnosis for a second, and just maybe what people are familiar with seeing, where you're seeing the darker reds and the oranges and the lightning, that's obviously drawing your concern. We're looking at the threat for severe weather right now at the moment at 8:14 p.m., shifting east and south of Columbus with multiple severe thunderstorm warnings and at least 2 tornado warnings in effect. Not to discount what's coming later on tonight, but I think this is going to be the main threat for the next 1 to 2 hours. So we've got 2 tornado warnings right now, one just north and east of Lancaster. This storm cell was moving east at about 30 miles an hour. Then the other tornado warning, that was moving out of Licking County over toward Muskingum County, and we're going to cover that one until 8:45 if necessary. That storm, I believe, was at 35 miles an hour. So if we can put a track maybe on each one of those storms, Michael, and just draw it out for those particular speeds, just to give folks an idea that are in the path. So if I talk about your city or your town, that's certainly an opportunity for you to take cover immediately. Zanesville at 8:30, that's 15 minutes. Pleasant Grove at 8:33. Adamsville 8:40, and then Cambridge at 9 o'clock. Down to the south, then, we're looking at the other particular storm. This one has the opportunity. Bremen at 8:24, Junction City 8:35. Now we're getting into Perry County, New Lexington 8:43, Crooksville 8:54, and then over toward Alabama Hill at 8:59. So those are the 2 tornado warnings right now. If we look at, or if you heard me mention your town or your city, or if you know somebody that lives, they might not be watching 10 TV, give them a call. Tell them to seek shelter. And we reviewed it before, but we're going to review it again just very quickly, that if you live in a mobile home, you want to seek shelter immediately. If you can't seek shelter immediately, the one thing to keep in mind always, put as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. An interior room, a hallway, a closet, a bathroom. If you live in a structure that has a basement, clearly you want to go to the basement. Don't forget to take your power cord, your battery pack, your pets, any important papers, and of course anybody you need with you, get to safety immediately. If you live in an apartment building or a multi-level structure, or if you're on the second floor, again, lowest floor and as many walls as you can are the very simple keys to be safe and keep yourself safe during a tornado. Right now, if you're just joining us on 10 TV, we're looking at 2 distinct tornado warnings. One right now just carving out the extreme southeastern corner of Licking County, then moving into Muskingum County. That one until 8:45. The southernmost tornado warning right now impacting areas just north and east of Lancaster. That just clips northern Hocking County, but goes to the Fairfield County line. That is set to expire in about 13 minutes. Michael?
Grab you real quick here, Jerry. If you're watching us on 10 TV Plus throughout the evening, we are tracking that storm that was heading toward Pike County, now extreme southern portions of the 10 TV viewing area, also with a tornado warning. Pike County under a tornado warning, now southern side of the viewing area. That's going to go until 8:45 as well for a tornado that's going to be working its way, radar detected tornado that's going to be working its way off toward the east at around 45 miles per hour. We'll put some of the additional information on here for you this evening too, and track that rotating portion of this storm as well. Really seeing these storms kick up in intensity here over the last 30 minutes or so, seeing more and more rotating portions of these thunderstorms, and we're seeing pretty good area of rotation right now just to the south of Pike County. So that's going to be moving off again toward the east at about 45 miles per hour. We'll give ourselves just a little space here so we can put the storm track on that portion of the storm, tracking off again toward the east at 45 miles per hour. This is going to be the southern side of Pike County. That's going to be in camp at 8:21, 8:27 Clifford, Cockrell Run at 8:30, and Germany at 8:36. This is not going to be in Pike County for long before exiting the 10 TV viewing area. But if you are on the southern side of Pike County, this is certainly another storm to take very seriously as we move through the next 30 minutes here or so, as that warning goes till 8:45. You can see that area of rotation in there. Again, switching between the different radars here. We'll lock in the Charleston radar, has kind of the best view of what we're looking at on this particular portion of the storm. That's going to be working its way into the southern side of the county here, south of Sunfish along US 23. So this is going to be another area to watch. This is definitely some good potential rotation on the southern side of Pike County moving into the county, and one of just numerous starting to rotate thunderstorms that we're watching here this evening. We were worried about the risk that as we got into some of this more unstable air, we'd see more rotating thunderstorms, and we're certainly starting to see that here this evening. We'll lock in the Columbus radar again and take a closer look at the two areas of concern closer to us here in the city, including Fairfield County and Licking County, working into Muskingum County. We'll zoom into a couple of those spots as well. We'll start first down in Fairfield County over toward the Lancaster area. Again, could be some rotation in this portion of the storm. The good news is I think this doesn't look as good from a rotating potential perspective as what we saw just a little bit ago. This is starting to look more like strong winds. You can see those areas of outflow from the storm, so certainly going to be severe winds working through portions of Fairfield County, but nothing at the moment that looks as extreme as what we have just up the road. So that's what we're going to travel up the road toward Muskingum County, in toward portions of King County, really starting to make its way more in toward Muskingum County is this portion right here, where you see that strong area of rotation just along and north of Hopewell, where we're seeing the rotating part of this thunderstorm travel here this evening. Again, haven't heard of any confirmation with these warnings just yet, but we are seeing the signs on radar that the storms certainly are starting to rotate fairly strongly here this evening as well. We'll switch to a different couple radar views, see if we can get a better view into there. We'll go to Pittsburgh first. That's where we're kind of heading toward. You can see again up into the thunderstorm here, that rotation certainly being picked up on radar there. You combine that with another view. We'll knock down toward Charleston, West Virginia as well. And we're all seeing the same thing. Those greens and those reds right next to each other. That's where we see the rotating potential in these storms. And this is traveling into portions of Muskingum County right now, really crossing across the border, still rotating here this evening, still under a tornado warning. I believe it was until 8:45 tonight as that storm moves off to the east.
Quick interruption to add some new information here. There was indeed debris reported in the tornado down south Adams County. That's the warned storm that is right now moving into Pike County. Debris and trees down in Adams County. Again, that's moving east, so some confirmed damage there. Also, a funnel cloud reported 3 miles west-southwest of Lancaster with that warned storm. That was about 10 minutes ago. That was a funnel cloud. No confirmation if it actually reached the ground. That's from a trained spotter, and that's just outside of Fairfield and Lancaster County.
So again, those are the storms that we've been tracking here this evening. If you were with us on 10 TV, we've been really following this since about 7 o'clock tonight. So we've got the storms kind of on lock as far as what we've been analyzing over the past couple of hours. So we've been watching the evolution from just wind and hail producing storms now to some rotating storms. And as Jerry was mentioning, I got to bend down here to grab the box down toward Pike County. But you can see here that tornado warning, as Jerry was saying, did produce debris over in Adams County. So this one does have at least some history of causing damage. Of course, the Weather Service will make the final determination whether that was tornadic debris, wind debris, what kind of damage they were causing out there, but would not be surprised to see this storm continue to produce something tornadic as it heads toward Pike County. As far as what we're seeing on the radar out there, this I believe is the Wilmington Weather Service radar. You can see certainly a big wind area inside this storm. I don't think this is the best view we can get down toward Pike County, so I'm going to go ahead and lock in Charleston radar here. It gives us a little bit better view. I would say that rotating portion of the storm right now moving very close to the southern side of Pike County. This is going to be crossing into the county here before too long. So if you are south of Sunfish, south of Hatch toward Camp Creek, this is going to be in your area pretty shortly. You can see it rotating down toward Mount George. Joy. It's going to be heading over toward Coopersville, Ohio 104, Sargent's, all going to be areas to see the storm. It's going to likely cross over at some point US 23, southern Pike County. So if you're traveling that way, maybe hold off just a little bit, wait for the storm to travel through, see what it does before we get heading that way, because again, it's been rotating. It did cause damage previously in Adams County, and it certainly could continue to cause damage here this evening as well. We'll go back to the regular radar and take the big view here across central Ohio. These storms, once we get past this round, Jerry, we're not going to be looking at an all-night affair, but before we do, certainly have heavy storms to travel through, certainly could see flooding in addition to the severe thunderstorms. That's
one of the things we talked about, Michael, is the potential for flooding on top of all the other variables that we're watching. An update and the good news sense is that from Logan County west, that tornado watch has been dropped. Still is in effect until 10 o'clock for much of central County, central Ohio, including Columbus and points off toward the east, but west of Madison and Union County, that's coming down. So as we're still watching the very active weather right now, we're seeing some improvement in the situation from west to east as we get through 9, 10 o'clock tonight. While we're on this particular frame, very easy to pick out where the threats are. Where the areas are shaded in yellow, we're still under a tornado watch. That goes until 10 o'clock. Clearly, the immediate threat as we near 8:30 on this Tuesday evening are a couple of areas in orange. Those are severe thunderstorm warnings around Fairfield County, Perry County, Licking County, and Muskegon County. And then down to the south, extreme southern Pike County, not just orange there, but also red. That is a tornado warning that goes until 8:45. This particular area of red, a tornado warning for Fairfield County, that is until 8:30. And this particular area around Zanesville, eastern Licking, and then Muskegon County, that is a tornado warning that also goes until 8:45. So if you are in those areas or those counties, if it looked familiar to you, we're going to switch it over to radar scan. It's something that might be a little more used to what you're seeing, and then put a track on each of those 3 discrete cells just to give you an idea of the location and the track that these storms are taking. So as we look at those storms again, moving in a direction about 30 miles, 35 miles an hour to the east, we'll take this northernmost storm first. This particular cell right now just showed some intense rotation, Michael, very quickly earlier this evening as we're tracking the situation on 10 TV Plus, and in a matter of moments popped that tornado warning for good reason. So if it's exiting Licking County, heading over towards Zanesville, 8:31, over toward Bridgeville, 8:42, New Concord, 8:52, Cambridge at 9:03, and then Wills at 9:17 as that storm tracks toward the east. Again, that is mainly in Muskegon County, but extreme southeastern Licking County still under the gun. A much smaller area that we're watching, and this one has an early report from a trained observer of producing a funnel cloud. This storm right now down in eastern parts of Fairfield County, that doesn't look quite as ominous, but still had some rotation. That warning is in effect for another 3 or 4 more minutes. So if you are in the area that is to east of that particular cell, that would be in and around New Lexington, headed over toward McConnellsville and Morgan County, that moving east at about 35 miles an hour. The particular towns around Junction City, New Lexington, Beerfield, and Durant, 8:33, 8:41, 8:54, and 9:12. In and around those towns and communities, this is your opportunity to seek shelter, and we talked about it before. It is not complicated. Just have to have a plan and enable that plan very, very quickly. Take your people and your pets and your papers and go to a safe place. The one other tornado warning that we're going to drop in on, that's in extreme southern parts of the viewing area. That includes Pike County right now. This storm has a history of a tornado making its way to the ground in Adams County just to the west. This warning goes into effect until 8:45, and this tornadic warned storm will affect again the southeastern corner of Pike County. And that, again, is the threat we're watching. Michael, there's a new warning right now in northern Pike County. We'll get to that in a moment. But this particular cell, you saw Lucasville, Clifford, and Camba coming up, 8:32, Camba at 9:12, and Vega at 9:25. And give us a little more information on that new warning that just popped up northern parts of Pike County, Michael.
Yeah, northern portions of Pike County under a severe thunderstorm warning at this time. That warning goes till 9 o'clock tonight for northwestern Pike County. 60-mile-per-hour wind gust and some penny-size hail are possibilities with this thunderstorm. The wind threat, I believe, the bigger severe risk with this portion of the thunderstorm, but something we'll be watching carefully tonight. Also, the potential for hail hail inside some of these thunderstorms. We've certainly seen that issued across the region as well. So hail, wind, tornadoes, flooding, kind of the forecast we've been giving you for the past several days. What's playing out here across central Ohio tonight? I'll take a look inside this thunderstorm as well, show you where the hail potential could be coming down right now. Something called VIL in the meteorology world. You can just think of it as hail potential. Right now, I would say sub-severe here in Pike County, but certainly, as they were saying, could be penny-sized hail. That's about 0.75 inches in diameter. That's going to be traveling across US 23. So if you're in Lucasville, if you're in Waverly, if you're thinking about traveling north or south, put that off for a little bit. Wait for the storm to travel across US 23. Give it some time to get through before you head out this evening. We'll move further back toward the north and look at the hail potential in the severe thunderstorms that are exiting Licking County and exiting Fairfield County. These, again, could see some hail in there as well, but it doesn't look to be the biggest hail threat that we've seen across the region here this evening. We'll zoom into what looks to be the stronger portion. Much like radar, the darker, brighter the colors, the better the hail potential is. We have some hail potential there to the east of Baltimore, north of Rushville. That's going to be heading off to the east towards Somerset, south of Glenford. So watch out for some hail in here. This will probably be a little bit closer to quarter-size hail, maybe an inch in diameter. So that would be severe hail, but just on the low end of the hail potential. What we've really been watching has been that rotating portion of these thunderstorms as well this evening. So we'll check in on that as we head into the rest of this evening. We've watched that rotating part of the thunderstorm come out of Fairfield County in toward Somerset right now. Doesn't look to be rotating anymore. I'll move the map here just to get slightly better positioning on that cell down toward Lancaster, Bremen, Somerset. Again, this looks like damaging wind potential, severe wind potential. I would say probably on the order of 60 miles or less from what I can see here on the radar, but that would be an area to watch for severe thunderstorm winds in toward New Lexington as well. Up toward Muskegon County, that has been the heavier concern over the past several runs. I would say good news at the moment is that this, as we get further away from Columbus, not looking to be as strongly rotating, but we're starting to lose some of the lower level scans from the radar. So the lower you see in the cloud, the more likely you are to see the tornado, because of course the tornadoes happen close to the ground. That's where you want to scan. But the further you get away from a radar, the harder that is to do. So we'll switch to a different radar, see if we see anything concerning with this storm. We'll go to Pittsburgh first here. Over in Muskegon County, again seeing those broad areas of rotation in that cell at the moment. We'll put the arrows back on the screen here just because that certainly does help see what we're looking at. The greens going toward the radar in Pittsburgh, the reds going away from the radar in Pittsburgh. So we are seeing that rotation in the sky still with this portion of the storm. We'll take a few more views here. Let's switch over to give Cleveland a check and see what that radar view looks like with this portion of the thunderstorm. Again, same idea, seeing that rotation happening in the storm, the greens going toward Cleveland, the reds coming away from Cleveland, and we're seeing rotation really in the same area that we were tracking as it traveled out of Licking County, now into Muskegon County, and we'll get a little bit closer in there and see if we can pop any of the roads and names on for areas that are going to be experiencing this. Of course, Ohio 60 there, Ohio 146. This is really going to travel near the Meadowbrook area. It's going to kind of in that no man's land where we're a little further away from the radar than we would like to be, so it's hard to pinpoint where the strongest rotation is actually concentrated, but really anywhere that you're seeing here on the map, I would say to the east of Iredell there, up toward north of Dillon Falls, north of Zanesville, Drake, Ellis, all of this area here should be sheltering in their safe places right now for the risk that this storm could produce a tornado, if not has already produced one. Again, it's been radar indicated threats here this evening. We'll zoom out just a little bit more, show you what's in front of this particular cell here. It's going to be heading south probably of Rock Cut, but it's going to be close. Again, it's hard to get the closest view here. That scan there, I don't know if that's clutter or a stronger sign of rotation. It could really go either way, but certainly seeing rotating in that thunderstorm, I think it's probably more clutter considering that's embedded in the green, and that would correlate more with the red side of the storm. So I wouldn't be super concerned about it, but overall, Jerry, definitely still a rotating thunderstorm in Muskingum County.
Yeah, that's what you're just looking at. It depends on what your perspective is as you're talking about, Michael, but it does look like there's still some tight rotation there. And unfortunately, it looks like we're looking at some tighter rotation right now in Perry County. So if you can drop in to Perry County, that's just southeast of get to central Ohio, just southeast of Licking County, northern Perry County. And in fact, they just have issued a tornado warning as I was saying that right now, and that is 4 areas in northern Perry County. And we've seen this happen at least 3 times so far this evening, where in a very quick time, matter of moments, that the tornadoes are forming and the warnings are issued. If you can zoom in on that, I'll give you a bit of an update there. Just crazy how fast things are unfolding this evening.
Yeah, so here's the warning inside there. Does look like it includes Somerset, just north of New Lexington, over toward Roseville area. So that's that part of the storm we were talking about earlier that came out of Fairfield County. So again, tracking it here this evening. You said new tornado warning with that storm. We'll see if we can get a good view inside there. Yeah, it does look like it could be spinning something up close to the Somerset area right now, Jerry.
Yeah, and that's the storm that we're watching very carefully. I was trying to find some immediate data on that, but I think just giving the opportunity for just to give a heads up on the folks and neighbors in northern parts of Perry County, literally right on top of Somerset, as you alluded to. That's a location that the storm seems to be cycling. Not uncommon with storms, as they have a hard time maintaining their intensity and integrity over long periods of time, but this one certainly has done just that over the past 60 minutes, and that's why we're seeing that rotation again right north of Somerset. So if you're Somerset, Cannon, Clover Hill, Seago, that is just east on 669, south of 22, in north, central, and eastern Perry County. This is your opportunity to seek shelter and do that immediately.
And again, it's kind of in that, what we were talking about just a little bit ago, that sort of like no man's area right there in between where we get good radar scans from any of the radar. So it's going to be hard to point out the exact strongest portion of rotation in that thunderstorm. But with multiple radars looking at these storms and being able to dissect the rotation in the atmosphere, that's where we do see these warnings come out for. And you can see the strongest area, just looking at the classic radar here, is moving through Somerset right now. It's going to be traveling off to the east-northeast. It's going to be toward the Fultonham area before too long. Likely going to travel north of Crooksville. Glenford, I would say you guys probably don't have too much threat from the stronger portion of this storm. Jerry, what was their speed with this?
That was 45 miles an hour to the east, and that's a radar-indicated tornado. 45 miles an hour to the east, just over Somerset at that point, and then moving east pretty quickly.
All right, we'll get a little bit of space here and we'll track that stronger portion of the cell off to the east, 45 miles per hour. We'll put the storm cone on here and show you what's going to be in front of that here before too long, as that storm is going to likely travel also into Muskingum County, where they've already been dealing with one tornado warning north of Zanesville there. That's going to be in the Fultonham area by 8:43, Roseville at 8:47, Zanesville 8:55, Pleasant Grove by 8:59, and after 9 o'clock into the Bridgeville area, eventually over toward Rich Hill as well. So again, these storms tonight continuing to show these brief periods of rotation, and something that we just have to carefully watch as we move to the next few hours, Jerry.
You're right, and these watches and warnings, excuse me, have been coming up and down very quickly at this time. If we can take a broader perspective, Michael, and just paint a picture, then we'll zoom into a couple of those. This particular map has been updated very frequently. Where you see the yellow, still under a tornado watch till 10 o'clock, but clearly the threat right now is east and south of Columbus. As we're looking at the areas in orange, those are severe thunderstorm warnings. The areas in red, those are tornado warnings. One in Muskingum County for about 9 more minutes, and then the one we're most concerned about right now, this is in central and northern parts of Perry County, and this one goes on until I believe 8:45 as well. So we've been seeing over the past couple of hours, actually tracking earlier on 10 TV Plus, minute by minute as the evolution of the storms move into central Ohio, but it really within the past 45 minutes, several of these cells have just exploded and then shrunk and then exploded with their intensity. And that's why we're seeing some of these frequent spin-ups of tornadoes. So, Michael, if we could go into the storm and not necessarily dissect it, but just take a look. I know there's not a lot of population centers there, but certainly we've got viewers in northern parts of Perry County. And this would also be the second storm, if it continues, to move into Muskingum County, this time affecting a different area than the previously warned storm. So for a frame of reference, there's Somerset, the county seat. There's Glenford to the north, Junction City to the south. Right in between is where the weather is the worst and we're most concerned. If you live in Somerset or east of Somerset, these are the locations around Fultonham, around Crooksville that we are most concerned about. That's where we're looking at the greatest threat for a tornado. These storms, at least the ones to the south, have had a history of producing a bona fide tornado with debris and some damage. So these are serious indicators of tornadic thunderstorms, and that's why we're continuing coverage this evening. This time focusing on Perry County. I think this storm is moving east at about 45 miles an hour. So even outside of that, as we stretch this into Muskingum County, there's Blue Rock, Brush Creek, Roseville, those areas east of Somerset. Certainly an opportunity to seek shelter and stay tuned. Always can take your phone with you. If we're breaking into coverage, we'll be streaming on 10 TV Plus. It's a seamless way, without having to be connected to your television, that you can receive critical weather information. So again, a couple different ways to get that information. And the reason we're on TV this evening is because of repeated tornado warnings moving in and going through the area. Right now, again, the most recent one we're watching, this is central and northern Perry County. You saw that sweep going by. Where you see that deep red, that's the most intense part of the storm. That's right around Somerset. Not only are we talking about the potential for some extremely heavy rain and some large hail and gusty winds, this particular storm has the history of rotation going back to Fairfield County. Now it's in Somerset County and moving off toward the east. So that storm, if we can put a track on that, Michael, as moving east right along the Muskingum-Perry County line. Roseville is under the track of that particular cell. So within the next 45 miles an hour, Roseville, Philo, Freeland, Buffalo, and Chaseville between 8:46 and 9:31 p.m. And even while I'm speaking, I noticed a new tornado warning that is in effect for Cambridge just to the north.
Yeah, that portion of the storm, one that we've been watching as it worked its way out of Licking County into Muskingum County. Now looks like they're going to continue those alerts over in toward Guernsey County as well. So it's going to be a storm system that we keep excuse me, we keep watching here this evening as it continues to evolve and continues to produce at least the potential for tornado warned storms here. So that storm warning coming out of the Pittsburgh National Weather Service office. We'll see a tornado warning until 9:30 tonight. That's going to include Guernsey County, portions of southeastern Coshocton County, northwestern Muskingum County for a radar indicated tornado threat. That storm was located near North Zanesville, moving east at about 45 miles per hour. So again, that's that portion of the storm that we've been tracking pretty much all evening long as it continues to show those signs of rotation and pushing its way through portions of Muskingum County, now heading over toward Guernsey County. It just includes very small southern sides of Coshocton County. So most of the threat really not going to be for you in Coshocton County. If you're in that county, you hear that the name pop up, perks your ears up a little bit. Watch out on the southern side for severe weather, but most of the tornadic threat should stay south of you. We'll put the storm track on this storm. We'll take it off toward the east at about 45 miles per hour. That's going to be putting it into Otsego by 8:48 tonight, 9:03 into Cambridge, Old Washington at 9:14, and Londonderry by 9:24. So this storm is moving off at a decent rate of speed, about 45 miles per hour. And again, they've been producing at least the potential for tornadoes here through most of the evening. It's been kind of a system that once it got to the east of Columbus really started to pick up some of the rotation in the atmosphere. And we've seen that become a present concern as we head deeper and deeper into the night. And unfortunately, it's coming as we head into the night, which means we're going to be getting harder to detect any of these tornadoes. It's going to be harder for people that are spotting these storms possibly to confirm some of the tornadic activity that comes along with this system. So I'm going to move a little bit closer to the Pittsburgh radar here at this point, because I don't think we're going to be able to see anything off Columbus anymore. We'll switch into lock in Pittsburgh on the radar here, and you can see the area of concern pretty clearly there in the Pittsburgh radar. That's going to be to the south and the east of Dresden, northeast of North Zanesville. So we'll zoom in to that portion of the storm as well. It's that area again where those reds and those greens sort of circulate around each other. That is the area of concern. So the greens here down toward Adamsville, that's coming toward the radar. The reds north of Ellis, that's pushing away from the radar. And that area in between where you have that circulation forming is where we could see the potential for a tornado. Right now it's going to be between Ohio 666 and Ohio 93. If you're in Adamsville, certainly going to be an area you need to be seeking shelter from with regard to this storm right now, and then eventually off further to the east as we continue to track this storm out. We'll see that threat move further and further to portions of Guernsey County, likely going to head north of Cambridge as these storms have been kind of tracking from the southwest ever so slightly to the northeast. It's going to be likely heading very close to the Kimballton area and eventually over toward I-77. So again, as the storm tracks toward I-77, I would say probably about 30 minutes from now, something to keep in mind if you're going to be out there traveling tonight. If you're traveling on the interstates, maybe hold off a little bit on I-77. If you're going to be close to Kimballton between Cambridge and I would say Newcomerstown, if you're between those areas in the next half hour, it's going to be an area to take a break, get for a stop, maybe grab a snack, wait for this storm to pass by, because it's going to be watching that rotation work its way through the region as we head over the next hour or so. We'll switch back to the big view here on the normal satellite radar. Again, lots of warnings out here. Severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, all in place. It's entering an area that has flash flood warnings already in place. All of these counties out here have seen very heavy rain over the last 48 hours, and we're going to continue to add to it. In fact, we'll switch over here to the view inside the storm of the precipitation rate, how heavy the rain is coming down. Think of this kind of like radar. The brighter the color, the more intense the color, the heavier the rain that's coming down. And right now through northern portions of Muskegon County, all the way up through Coshocton, even over toward Newcomerstown, seeing some really heavy rainfall rates pushing through. We'll put some of the numbers on here for you. And this is real-time estimates. So estimating about 2 inches per hour there near Dresden. We go down toward just to the southeast of Dresden, again, about 2 inches per hour. So this is probably producing, again, close to that 2 inch per hour rate all across the cell. So if you're near a creek that floods, if you've already had flooding, that's only going to get worse with this threat as these storms push through this evening. Of course, the potential for hail and wind also in the storms. I really think the hail threat hasn't been extreme here this evening, but we've seen the wind threat out there, damaging winds across the 10 TV viewing area. Several areas with the tornadic rotating type thunderstorms pushing through as well. We still have that warning down toward Pike County. We've been watching here this evening too, so lots of activity across the region, but thankfully some of us starting to get cleared out behind it, Jerry.
So we're watching again, Michael, the continuation of severe weather threat across central Ohio. It's to be really clear about this, that areas even to the west of Columbus, west of Delaware, Marysville, and London, that tornado watch has been taken down. Still will see some gusty showers and perhaps a thunderstorm, but overall that threat is diminishing with time. It is really focusing now off toward the east, where we've been putting our attention over the past hour or so. Several locations that we're seeing still in the yellow, a tornado watch that includes Columbus and all the way down to Athens that goes until 10 p.m. Areas in the orange, those are severe thunderstorm warnings, and then we're focusing on that brighter red. Those are current tornado warnings. Now, as we head up till 8:45, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but it looks like that warning for Perry County has been allowed to expire early. The one for Pike County has then moved to the southeast. So it's really the one we're watching right now in Muskegon County and Guernsey County, just over toward Cambridge. And he mentioned right along that 77-70 split. That is still intact.
Yeah, again, the warning down toward Pike County did get scaled back mostly into Scioto County. That storm approaching Jackson County, just outside the 10 TV viewing area, but that'll be something to watch carefully as it eventually makes its way likely south close to Adams County. Will be something to follow over the coming hours. And then again, the warning that's coming out of Muskegon County into Guernsey County going to be the area of most present concern right now, as that particular portion of the storm continues to show signs of rotation here this evening, Jerry, and then of course continues to be under that severe thunderstorm warning as well. I'll switch over for the view inside the storm for you, and we'll get the we'll lock it into let's say Pittsburgh. As we get closer and closer to Pittsburgh, we should be getting a better view of this. Still looks like some of that rotation inside Muskingum County, eventually going to be heading into Guernsey County here before too long.
So we've been watching this. This rotation is an indication. It might not be the normal radar scan that you're used to seeing, but when we're looking inside these storms, we're seeing where the storm is rotating, and oftentimes that rotation reaches down to the ground. Of course, that's a funnel cloud that eventually becomes a tornado. And where we're seeing some of the greens and the reds coming toward the radar site and away from the radar site, that's why it just helps us kind of tune where we're talking about specifically. So this particular instance, we're north of Zanesville, south of Dresden, to give you a couple of data points. And this storm is moving out of Muskingum County, right around Adamsville at the current time, actually, and moving east at, I believe, at about 45 miles an hour. So this is the rotation that we're watching right now, centered right over Adamsville. So if we're mentioning Adamsville and points off toward the east, this is your opportunity and your warning to seek shelter immediately. Earlier storms from the same thunderstorm complex in the same family have had a history of producing tornadoes across south central Ohio, and that's why we're taking this threat very seriously. Now again, moving from Muskingum County over toward Guernsey County, and that tornado warning is in effect until 9:30 p.m. So if we can go back to more of a standard radar look and then put a track on this particular storm, that will just help. I know there's not a ton of large towns and cities though, but still very important to the people that are living or might have family or friends in the path of that storm. Just for a frame of reference, there's I-70, very well traveled. There's 77 from Marietta to Cleveland, right in between that critical area, Cambridge in about 10 minutes. Old Washington at 9:09, Londonderry at 9:18, Flushing, and all the way out toward the Panhandle of West Virginia in about an hour's time. So that's the main threat that we're watching right now, is a continuation. It looks like areas around Dresden and around Zanesville in central and western parts of Muskingum County. The threat is diminishing quickly for you, but still exhibiting some characteristics that are concerning to the areas to the east where we're tracking this particular storm out. Notice too, the broad nature of this particular tornado warning that does stretch from Coshocton down toward Guernsey County and then down to the south. Overall, the threat I still think is right along and north of Interstate 70. Unless you're seeing something different, Michael, that's really the only concern right now that we have in central Ohio. And that is good news and change from where we were in terms of severe weather. Again, still some gusty showers and perhaps some downpours between now and about 10 o'clock even for Columbus, but looks like the threat for severe weather is shifting rapidly to the east.
Yeah, certainly shifting to the east. We'll show you that view again, showing all the different alerts in place across central Ohio right now. Severe thunderstorm warnings to the south, just outside of the 10 TV viewing area. Looks like it maybe includes extreme western portions of Athens County, but that includes Benton County, Jackson County, just south of Hocking County, also showing that as well in place at the moment. We'll keep an eye on all of these warnings as they continue tonight. They've scaled back the tornado watch from areas further to the west. Logan County out toward the west, not under the watch anymore. Still does include us here in Franklin County. I would be doubtful that we see any more severe weather here in the city of Columbus tonight. I think that threat has again passed off to the east. It's really going to be everything that we see here from those storms over in Muskingum County back down through Pike County and areas off to the east that we continue to watch for a threat of severe weather here tonight and the possibility for some rotating thunderstorms. Looks like they just updated that tornado warning that is including portions of Muskingum County and over into Guernsey County right now. So that's going to be the storm to watch at the moment. We'll keep an eye further to the south too. The good news is as we approach here the 8:50 hour, closing in on 9 o'clock, not seeing the tornado warnings down to the south at the moment here on this view. I'll go back to the other one. And yeah, it looks like that warning south of Pike County has been allowed to expire as well. So we will watch those southern cells as they get closer to Athens County, see if we do pick up any more type of rotation in the thunderstorm. But right now, we're just dealing with the one rotating thunderstorm out toward Guernsey County, I-77 and I-70. That'll be the one to watch as we make our way through the next hour or so here. I believe that warning goes until, was it 9:30, Jerry? For that
That's correct.
warning?
9:30 for Guernsey County, yes.
Yeah, 9:30 for that warning as it travels off toward the east side of the viewing area. We'll put on our different radar views here again and see if we can get a better view inside the storm that's working its way through portions of Muskingum County into Guernsey County. It's still that same area of rotating potential that we see out there toward New Concord. North of New Concord is now moving east of Adamsville. Still just kind of in that radar no man's land out there between the different radars and where we can get a good view of the rotation of this thunderstorm. We'll try the Cleveland radar. I don't think we've looked at that view here recently. See if we get a better view. Kind of seeing a better area here where you get those purples. That's where you start to get, it's called range folding, meteorology terms, doesn't matter. Anyways, it's hard to see inside that cell, but this is the spot of concern. Adamsville up toward north of New Concord. That's going to be working its way, I believe that's 541. It's hard to tell from this angle. I'm going to sort of re-angle the map here and zoom back in, get a better view inside the rotating part of that thunderstorm, working its way toward northeastern portions of Muskegon County. Very shortly here into Guernsey County. We'll zoom in again on the area of biggest concern. It's going to be up close toward Otsego right now, eventually heading toward Ohio 662, crossing over Ohio 93 and 83 as well as that rotating part of the thunderstorm heads toward Otsego. Again, with being so far away from the National Weather Service radars, it's hard to pinpoint any one small spot that this is the spot of most danger right now. So we kind of have to paint it in these sort of more broad brush terms. So anywhere from Adamsville on off toward Bowdoin, up toward Markend Mills, going to be an area of concern here this evening. And we'll switch over to the Pittsburgh radar as well, just to give you a better view of some spots that you may not be seeing well here. And again, you can see how that rotation stretches down further to the south toward the east of Adamsville, which is why we're just kind of talking about the potential for rotation in this storm in those broad terms, because this is a broad area that we could see rotating thunderstorms quickly produce a tornado, and one that we'll have to watch for until we stop seeing those signs of rotation in these storms. This is going to be crossing the border in toward Guernsey County here before too long this evening. So as it does, we'll have to watch for continued threats into Guernsey County. If you're in Guernsey County, I would say again, kind of up toward Kimballton is where this is going to be targeting more directly. If you're toward I-70, I think you're mostly away from the tornadic part of this thunderstorm. But if you travel up 77 toward Kimballton, this is certainly going to be heading toward you. North side of Guernsey County, I would say up toward Newcomerstown. This is likely, I would follow my hands here, kind of track in this general direction. So this is the area of highest concern. Ohio 541, Ohio 658, south of Linton there, going to be areas to watch tonight, Jerry.
So again, we're continuing coverage this evening. Thanks a lot, Michael. Doing a great job of dissecting the storms and the threat. And as you mentioned, we're certainly in a situation this far east of Columbus, still Guernsey County in the 10 TV viewing area and under a tornado warning until 9:30 p.m. That area is far away from just about every National Weather Service radar, but still the worrisome part about that is, and again, just for a frame of reference, there's Cambridge, anybody that's traveled 77 and 70, there's Dresden right now. We're talking really between those two where we're seeing this rotation. And in case you're just joining us in our extended coverage this evening, what we're looking at right here is the rotation within that storm. And oftentimes we've used this analogy before, like an ice skater. When that rotation is broad and wide within the thunderstorm, that rotation is relatively slow. As that tightens up, then it has an opportunity to get a little faster. And that's sometimes when that spin actually goes from the thunderstorm itself and reaches the ground when we would have a tornado. So that outline right now does include areas between Kimballton and Cambridge, primarily right along and north of I-70. So if you live in or around or know somebody that is any of these towns or communities, call them, or if this is you, seek shelter immediately. Talking about Indian Camp at 8:59, Middleburn 9:21, Freeport at 9:29, Nottingham 9:37, Flushing 8:41, and Cadiz at 9:49 p.m. So we're really, again, stretching to the eastern parts of the 10 TV viewing area, but giving everybody the same attention that they deserve under the threat of severe weather this evening. Not only are we seeing the possibility of a tornado, but these storms have a history of producing some very heavy rain, 1 to 2 inches plus per hour, some hail up to 1 inch, that's almost golf ball size, and wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. So while we are focusing on the particular area right now where it seems to be the worst, again, northeastern parts of Muskegon County and over toward Guernsey County, areas in and around that, southern Coshocton County, Newcomerstown, Kimballton, Londonderry, and then further off toward the east and south, all those locations are still under the threat for severe weather. And then we just mentioned, again, the hail, the extremely heavy rain and the damaging winds. A little bit of good news from this particular perspective right now. West of Coshocton, west of Zanesville, west of Dresden, that includes Licking County and Newark, which was under the threat earlier. Those seem to be in the clear right now, but we're still focusing the attention on this particular thunderstorm cell. Also arcing southward down toward Morgan County, down toward Perry County, Nelsonville and Athens County and Hocking County. Those locations are still under the threat for severe weather. We're watching this cell moving over toward Vinton County right now, possibly crossing into Athens, but at the time this is just a severe thunderstorm warning that we're watching very carefully. North of that, around Lancaster, you're in the clear. And if we can expand the perspective just a bit to kind of level set and give people an idea of what we're looking at this evening, we're still watching a couple small little slivers of some thunderstorms and downpours. One from Mount Vernon, Delaware, over toward Dublin and Plain City. That just northwest of Columbus, around Hilliard. At this time, no lightning, but some gusty winds and maybe some very small hail. This is actually the last line, or one of the last lines that we're going to see moving through. That's why west of that, the National Weather Service has taken down the tornado watch, so that is a little bit of good news. One or two cells along I-75, but we're still carrying the main threat right now and for the next 30 minutes or so of severe weather that is east and southeast of Columbus. Again, we're looking at the areas with the yellow where we're watching that tornado watch. That's in effect until 10 o'clock. Earlier, that was carved out or ended to the west, and hopefully that will continue the dropping the tornado watch the National Weather Service does in the next 1 or 2 hours. And then Zanesville and points to the east, we have that broader orange. That is a severe thunderstorm warning, and the smaller area bright red, that's the tornado warning. And then down to the south, just clipping extreme western parts of Athens County, we're looking at a severe thunderstorm warning there. But again, just kind of setting the picture for you as to what we're dealing with this evening. We had several rounds of some disruptive weather, some thunder and lightning, heavy rain and hail earlier around 7 to 7:30 this evening, but then the atmosphere quickly acted up and, as expected, has been producing some rotating thunderstorms, and we've been tracking those primarily along the east central parts of the 10 TV viewing area, and that's why we're breaking into coverage this evening. So we're looking at the area in and around Zanesville for that tornado warning. East, that is the split between 77 and 70, very well traveled, very well known, and that's where we're also seeing a smaller pocket in that cluster of lightning, and that's where we're going to take a closer inspection right now. Where we have these overlapping areas of red, these are still tornado warnings, and we're watching them closely, but then again, we're also watching the back edge of that around Dresden and Zanesville, hopefully seeing a bit of improvement. So still not totally out of the woods around Newark, for example, around Columbus proper, Delaware, you're seeing some gusty showers, but the threat for the severe weather right now is further off toward the east. And we said it before, we'll just reiterate the fact again. If you are under a tornado warning, hopefully you already have your plan in place. The most simplest thing, or the easiest thing to keep in mind, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. That is no matter where you live, an apartment building, a house, condo, or a mobile home, as many walls between you and the outside as possible, the lowest floor possible. And if you have a basement, that's a good place to go as well. So correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but while I was giving some simple instructions there, looks like the back edge of that particular warning has been taken down.
Yeah, they took down the back edge of the severe thunderstorm warning that was stretching back into Muskingum County. Still under the severe thunderstorm warning for Coshocton County, Muskingum County on into Guernsey County, and still under that tornado warning into portions of Guernsey County as well. So that's going to be the area to continue with here this evening, and watch hopefully the rotating part of this thunderstorm work its way out of the region. We've seen these storms, thankfully not as severe over the metro portions of Columbus as the threat was for earlier this evening. Of course, when we were talking about the forecast, looking into the environment, it was kind of a deal where we knew the ingredients were in place for severe weather. The question was when and where would they come together? And we kind of had the broad area of all of Ohio highlighted under the risk. The western counties, we've seen several rounds of storms over the past several days, but they really haven't gotten severe until they made it east of Columbus. And that's what we're seeing here again tonight. East and south of Columbus have been the highest threats for storms, and we have seen the rotating portion of these thunderstorms as well. The heaviest portion of the thunderstorm right now starting to exit northeastern portions of Muskegon County. That's going to be working its way in toward Guernsey County. We've been talking about tonight the Kimballton area, this storm heading your way. So if you're familiar with that town there, if you're familiar traveling north of Cambridge on Interstate 77, this is going to be the area to watch for the potential thunderstorm that could be producing a tornado or could quickly produce a tornado head your way. It's under a severe tornado warning tonight until 9:30 as that system continues to work its way off toward the east. We'll put back the view inside the cells here, inside the storms. We'll use the Pittsburgh radar. As we get closer and closer, we will get a better and better picture of where the most dangerous portion of the storm is. And right now, that looks to be traveling across the border from Muskegon County in toward portions of Guernsey County. That's where we're seeing that rotating portion of the thunderstorm come together again. We've talked about tonight, this is not your traditional radar view. This is what we use to see how the winds are moving inside the severe thunderstorms. So we'll draw what we're seeing here as meteorologists on the screen for you. The greens are winds that are coming toward the radar. The reds are winds that are going away. That is the green, that is the red, and that's where we're watching for the potential of a rotating thunderstorm that either is or could quickly produce a tornado here this evening. Remains under a tornado warning, at least for the next 28 minutes as it travels into Guernsey County. So this is going to be a close area to watch and see if this threat continues or if we start to see the threat fade away. Right now, this threat has continued. It's been rotating as a thunderstorm all the way back to Licking County. So this has been ongoing for a while here with the tornadic threat, or at least the potential for a tornado as it continues to work its way in toward portions of Guernsey County at this hour. We'll take a closer look toward that center of rotation. The closest areas where you get the greens and the reds together is where the best threat for something to turn tornadic would be. That right now is going to be moving toward the Bowdoin area. This is going to be traveling eventually over toward Ohio 658 and again tracking toward Kimballton. This is the area where this storm is going to be heading toward. It's likely going to cross over Ohio 541 before crossing over Interstate 77 and eventually working its way on off into northern portions of Guernsey County here this evening. That tornado warning, I believe, does ever so slightly cover southern portions of Coshocton County. I would not expect the rotation to make it into Coshocton County, but again, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning in association with this rotating thunderstorm that continues to work its way off into Guernsey County. The speed of these storms tonight has been about 40-45 miles per hour. So I want to track that area of rotation again to give you the updated list of towns out in front of this cell. That rotation again right on the border between portions of Guernsey and Muskegon County. We'll put the storm cone on this particular cell for you as well. Track it off about the next hour or so as it moves its way through Guernsey County. It's going to be in Kimballton here in about 6 minutes at 9:10. It's going to be in Odell at 9:16, over toward the Londonderry area by 9:30 tonight. That's when this warning officially expires for now. We'll see if that is continued as the threat for this storm works its way closer to the Pittsburgh radar. We'll get a better view of it, and then it's going to move over toward Piedmont and Nottingham as we travel past the 9:30 hour. Right now, looking at some of the other storms in the view of the Pittsburgh radar, nothing here particularly shows rotating thunderstorm at the moment. Of course, this isn't the closest radar to everything, so we'll switch back to the storm view as well. And really just looks like it's these two warnings here right now that are the big factors on the eastern side of the 10 TV viewing area, though we do have to watch that cell that did produce damage earlier this evening down to the southern portion of the state. This still under a thunderstorm warning as well, just barely clipping portions of Athens County as this pushes off up to the north and northeast into the extreme southeastern portion of the 10 TV viewing area. Still could see some rotation in that storm as well, Jerry, so it's going to be something to watch here tonight too. I was just looking at that, Michael, and perhaps we can take a little quick diagnosis, even though that's in Vinton County. Athens County, of course, where OU is located, along where probably many of you went to college or know somebody that did or have children that go there, that is still in the 10 TV viewing area and something we're watching
rather closely. Past couple of cycles have still shown a bit of rotation coming out of the Charleston, West Virginia radar right now, again, where we're seeing that red and that green close together. It's not a guarantee, but it's just kind of an early look or maybe a precursor to what might be a tornadic thunderstorm as these thunderstorms are rotating and again lifting off just north of east right now. So we're looking again between areas in Vinton County and further off toward the east in Athens County. We're going to watch that cell closely. There is a severe thunderstorm warning right now. It's not in Athens County yet, but if it gets there and is tornadic, we will let you know. So as we look at the bigger picture right now, we've been focusing and watching really on the developing and evolving threat for severe weather over time. We're seeing some very nasty looking thunderstorms and some lightning and downpours. And further off toward the west, while we're not ignoring, we'll take a quick break for a second, and from Guernsey County, but we're seeing a few other spotty showers and some thunderstorms. These are actually with the front as it begins to work in 9, 10, 11 o'clock as that front moves through. That will quickly put an end to the severe weather threat, but along the way will produce some gusty showers, some unwelcome additional rain, perhaps some lightning and some small hail, but the severe threat is very, very low with that last line of storms. However, the threat still lingers, and we're focusing mainly on one area right now as we get to 9:07 p.m., and that is in and around Guernsey County. Now, this storm had a history of producing a funnel cloud, at least the neighbor storm did when it was in Fairfield County around Lancaster, and as it's moving off toward the east, it still is carrying that threat of a rotating storm. So we're looking again at the area around Cambridge and around the 70 and 77 split. That is just around Guernsey County, southeast of Coshocton, right around Cambridge, east of Zanesville and southwest of Freeport, just for some context to where we're looking right now. So that particular cell, again, has some history of rotation. It is unfortunately between just about every National Weather Service radar that we have access to, whether it be Pittsburgh or Cleveland or Charleston, West Virginia, but it still has been very consistent in rotating, and that's why it still has that tornado warning with it that goes until 9:30. So Michael, if we could just put maybe a broad track on that, as we're not exactly sure where that tightest rotation is, maybe just move that. I think it was along and east of I-70 going at about 45 miles an hour, just to alert folks that might be under the track of that particular storm. If you are in the track of the storm, a tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. If you know somebody that is in North Salem, Londonderry, Holloway, Flushing, or Mount Pleasant, and yeah, we're getting really close to the panhandle of West Virginia at that point as we stretch it out to about 10 o'clock. That storm has a history of rotation. You might want to call somebody and give them a heads up. Hey, if you're not watching 10 TV, you want to do what you can to keep yourself and your family safe. And that indication right there. Yes. Go ahead. New
tornado warning for southeastern Muskingum County. That's going to go until 9:45 tonight. National Weather Service office from Pittsburgh tracking a potentially tornadic storm that was moving its way south of Zanesville. You can see that new warning popping up there on your map on the southern side of Muskingum County. The highest intensity part of that cell to the southeast of Brush Creek. So this is going to be just another tornado warning with this seemingly rotation-rich atmosphere that we have over the eastern side of the 10 TV viewing area right now, Jerry.
If we could put a quick track on that, Michael, that would be great. And this storms have a history of moving east. There's a very tight rotation we're talking about there. Sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's very abrupt and very obvious, but as I said, this is a rotation-rich environment. These storms have had a history of kind of moving along earlier this evening, but as soon as they got pretty much east of Columbus, they started to rotate in individual cells. So we're looking at that particular cell right now around Freeland at 925, Rich Hill 928, Buffalo 950, Caldwell 953, and Kennensburg at 10:08 p.m. And again, that is for the latest in a series of tornadic thunderstorms that are moving through central Ohio. The focus right now is clearly in the eastern part of the viewing area. We're still seeing some gusty showers to the west, but the severe weather threat continues to move off toward the east. Again, right now, this is southeastern Muskingum County. The other nearby tornado warning is in Muskingum County, and in fact, that just has been taken down, I believe, unless I'm missing something, Michael.
No, that was just me adjusting some of the views there. So
okay.
There's that tornado warning in Guernsey County still, yes.
Okay, got it. So it looks like it's a little bit smaller than it was. They're kind of paring it down just along and north of I-70 and 77 split, moving east on 22 toward Kimballton. Again, not a ton of areas over there around Salt Creek, Fork, Park, I believe. That's an area that we're watching very closely under this particular storm. But these are the two current tornado warnings. This one until 9:30, I believe, and the one down to the south in southeast Muskegon County until 9:45. So we're watching those again very closely. And depending on which radar perspective you're looking at, you do get a bit of a different look, but still where we're seeing this kind of green sticking out a little bit anomalous or different than the red neighbors, that's an indication that the parent thunderstorm might be rotating, and that's always a threat when you get a rotating thunderstorm, that threat and that rotation can reach the ground.
Yeah, certainly always a threat with these storms here tonight. And like you said, it's hard to get a good view in this part of central Ohio. The radars are kind of scattered across the region, putting separation between where we do see the potential for a rotating thunderstorm and where we can get a good view of the potential for a rotating thunderstorm. This new warning that we have in place in Muskegon County right now, seeing the best view off of the Columbus radar with that area there near Blue Rock. But again, as this travels really outside the effective range of the radar from Columbus, we're going to get back into that same zone that having issues with on the north side of Muskegon County, where we just don't have a radar close enough to get a great view inside the storm. And while we can track the potential for rotation in these storms, it's really just going to be a broad brush kind of approach, because you're not going to be able to pinpoint down to the street as well as you would like to where the strongest rotation is. So right now it's going to be that area down near Blue Rock where we see that potential for strong rotation in this particular thunderstorm. Right now, we'll zoom in a little close to southern Muskegon County, show you that area right in there near Philo. It's going to be working its way across Ohio 60, eventually off toward High Hill, Rich Hill area. This area of the system was not moving particularly fast. It was only moving off to the east around 30 miles per hour. But again, seeing the signs in the storm that we could have rotation with that portion of the thunderstorm. I do want to switch to a different view here as well. We were switching views there just a little bit ago to try to find the best radar for actually tracking that storm. Again, it's really hard to find a good one, but I would say areas near Philo right now, you need to be sheltering in your safe spot, because if we do see the tornado form, it's going to be very close to you. It's going to be to the south and east of the Zanesville area, south of Smith Mill, working its way eventually off to the east, High Hill, Rich Hill. You guys are areas that will need to see shelter from this storm as the system moves on and off to the east. We'll switch back to the Pittsburgh radar here as well, because we do have that continued tornado warning over in portions of Guernsey County, and we'll move the radar to get into Guernsey County as well and see if we can see any changes with that particular part of the storm. That was up to the north of Cambridge and moving its way. We've been talking toward Kimballton for the past what feels like about half hour or so. That name's been popping up, and continuing to see that rotation come closer and closer to you. The good news is here, this rotation not super well defined. I mean, we're still seeing that sign in the atmosphere. We're still seeing the spin in the atmosphere. Again, it always helps to put the arrows on here for you guys at home toward the radar, away from the radar, helps you sort of visualize what we're looking at as meteorologists here. And that's the area where we're seeing that rotation. Again, kind of a broad scale from Kimballton, Ohio 541, about to cross over Interstate 77. We were telling you for about a half hour, if you were planning to travel on 77, you were watching this broadcast or watching on your phone, on the 10 TV app, on Facebook, maybe take a break. Don't travel on 77. That's definitely been good advice, as this strongest part of the storm now working its way likely across Interstate 77, if not at the moment, shortly thereafter. This system going to be heading across the interstate there. The radar scans that you see at home, usually anywhere between about 2.5 to 5 minutes behind, depending on the radar that you're watching. This one here, so again, heading toward 77, very short order. So we do have a couple tornado warnings that we're watching here this evening across central Ohio. We'll switch back to the normal radar view and sort of recap the map here where those warnings are. We have the severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning over in Guernsey County. The severe thunderstorm warning does include portions of Muskegon County and portions of Coshocton County, but looks like that did just get dropped from the screen there, and so did the radar or the warning further to the south. So good news for that. But we do still have the 2 tornadic warnings that we're watching here at this hour, and we'll zoom back in on those. Those warnings, I believe, expired here as we hit the 9:15 hour. So we have the 2 tornado warnings over on the eastern side of the 10 TV viewing area, including what we have here in Guernsey County. That one officially continuing till 9:30 tonight for the storm. The heaviest portion now traveling through Kimballton, eventually working its way off to the east of I-77. And then the other newer tornado warning down in southern portions of Muskegon County. That one goes till 9:45 tonight for that heaviest portion of the cell you see there north of Blue Rock. So we'll be watching those very carefully over the next 15 minutes, half hour here as storms evolve, hopefully showing a weakening trend. That would be the ideal. Of course, we'll follow them as long as the threat continues for our viewers here in central Ohio. And it's definitely still, it's messy, but definitely still looks like there's some of that rotation there near the Blue Rock area. And that'll be the area to watch probably most closely right now, Jerry.
Yeah, you're right about that, Michael. We're in between radar sites. We really have a tough time resolving that particular thunderstorm cell, but nevertheless, it has been having a history rotation along with the near neighbors over the past several hours. We watched this line of thunderstorms coming into central Ohio just after our 6 o'clock newscast, and as we got into the second half of the evening, 7, 8 o'clock, these thunderstorms had not gone any particularly severe, but several of them started rotating and producing some damage along the Ohio River, and those rotating thunderstorms have prompted several severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings, which is why we're focused right now. So for perspective, there's Zanesville, Muskegon County, there's Interstate 70 across the north of your screen, and it might be a little bit murky, but what we're looking at is actually dissecting into the middle of the storm, even from a radar some distance away. And where we get those reds and those greens together, that's an indication that we're seeing some of that rotation in the thunderstorm. Oftentimes the rotation in the storm will make its way down to the ground. That's, of course, when a rotating thunderstorm goes to a funnel cloud and eventually becomes a tornado. Now, not all of these are producing a tornado, but it's impossible to say just by looking at the radar. So we are being proactive in communicating these warnings to you. So if you are in the path of this particular storm, most notably right now in Muskegon County, soon to be over to the east, and that would clip southern parts of Guernsey County, possibly Smith Mill, Ricks Mills, Rich Hill, and High Hill, north of Blue Rock, just north of Philo. This is an opportunity for you to hear this and take shelter immediately. One of the things that you need to do, though, is stay connected so you know when it's all clear. Best way to do that is through the 10 TV app. You don't need to be connected to a TV or a satellite dish or have a remote control. You've got us streaming in your palm of your hand. So as long as you've got cell service and some connectivity, you're able to watch us in real time and give you some critical information. Again, in this case, it could be east of that storm to seek shelter and enact your severe weather plan immediately. To the west of that storm around South Zanesville, those areas for the moment are in the clear. So it's almost as important on either side of that storm to be able to move out of harm's way. So we're looking at just plain showers to the west of that, but still, again, this small but robust thunderstorm, part of a much larger line which has been moving in this evening. That one just north of Blue Rock, and then the other tornado warning is in Guernsey County, north of Cambridge, up near Kimballton. It looks like the worst part of that particular cell, Michael, is moving off toward the northeast, but still obviously worth watching. And this particular cell, well, it doesn't look a whole lot worse than its near neighbors from this perspective. It's what you don't see, but when you look inside the storm, that rotation, that you can't always go just by appearance sake on how these storms look on a regular radar scan. You have to kind of take that deeper dive and deeper look and kind of dissect some of the storm mechanics, which is what we're doing right now. So north of that, you can still see what we call this couplet, where we're seeing the red and the green together. That's an indication where that storm is rotating. Even if that rotation is relatively weak, we used this analogy before, just like an ice skater. As that rotation gets a little bit smaller and shrinks, it speeds up, and that's why oftentimes you see tornadoes having that somewhat classic shape, faster toward the bottom, a little bit slower and broader toward the middle or top of the storm as it emanates from the bottom of that thunderstorm cell. So we've seen several supercells or rotating thunderstorms along this particular line, ebbing and flowing, strengthening and weakening with time, but where we've seen this rotation, it's obviously enough to cause alarm. This one in particular right now around Odell. This is 77. We're over near Salt Fork Creek State Park. east of 77 in Kimballton. Right now, Kimballton still seeks shelter, but I'm more concerned about communities off toward the east. Odell, for example, and then toward Londonderry and perhaps even Freeport as that storm. You can very clearly see, even if we zoom out just a tiny bit, maybe give it a bit more perspective, how this one area is different than its neighbors, and that red and the green are pretty close together, and that's oftentimes where we see that tornado. So we're looking at Freeport, 936. If you are listening or watching and hear your town listed, or if you know somebody that is, an opportunity to be a good neighbor or friend or family member, and you reach out to them right now. Piedmont 941, Flushing 950, Caddis 957, and then we get past 10 o'clock as that storm moves to the east, Rumley, Hopedale, Long Run, Smithfield, and Yorkville between now and about 10:17. So again, we're watching the severe weather threat continue this evening in the 10 TV viewing area. Right now, that severe weather threat is shifting off toward the east and focused in two particular areas: south central and eastern parts of Muskingum County and north central and northeastern parts of Guernsey County in the eastern parts of the viewing area. We're trying to dial in the better radar scan to help us find out where the particular risk might be. Still persistent in showing that rotation, now moving ever so slightly east of Zanesville. And what we're seeing here is not your normal radar scan, but it is a bit of a rotation, and that's worrisome. So this particular cell, Freeland at 925, Rich Hill 929, Ava at 948, Buffalo 951, Senecaville at 949, and Fredericksdale at 1004. And then we're getting to the northern parts of Noble County, which will hand off to our broadcast friends and neighbors further off toward the east. So, Michael, if we can broaden this perspective just for a second and give people kind of an idea of what we're dealing with beyond these two particular areas. We just gave you a quick rundown. In fact, this particular one in Guernsey County has been diminished intensely in terms of the size of that. West of that, we're still seeing a couple of showers and some thunderstorms. Western Knox County, Delaware County, down toward areas around Lewis Center, and then over toward Dublin. That line is not severe, but it's going to be a little troubling. Hopefully it's the last in the line of thunderstorms this evening. Further off toward the south, we're still getting some heavy unwanted downpours. Lancaster, Circleville, Chillicothe, and down toward Hocking Hills, Logan, even toward Athens. But it looks like at this point, the strongest storms and the most severe weather, where we're seeing even a cluster of lightning flashes, is further off toward the south of Pike County and then moving off toward the southeast. So we're not sounding the all clear for central Ohio just yet, but we're giving you an idea where we're focusing our attention right now. Clearly south and east of Columbus, kind of the edges of the 10 TV viewing area, and this map is improving right now. While it is still showing the yellow for a tornado watch that technically goes until 10 o'clock, we're not seeing widespread areas of orange thunderstorm warnings. We're seeing a couple of pockets of red. Those brighter reds, those are tornado warnings. And where we're seeing that darker red, those are indications of a flash flood warning, a very large flash flood warning that is issued by the National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh for extended rainfall and potential flooding there. So again, we're not sounding the all clear yet, Michael, but it is certainly trending a little bit in the better direction.
Yeah, certainly not all clear yet, but also something to continue watching here tonight. Of course, those two tornadic warned storms, thankfully diminishing in coverage at the moment. But of course, as you were mentioning, the flash flood potential, another concern here this evening. All those counties under the darker maroon color, those are counties under a flash flood warning. Now, that's a little larger than you would normally see a flash flood warning. But the reasoning for that from the Weather Service office in Pittsburgh is that there's just been so much rain so far this week and going back even toward the weekend that the rivers and the streams that you would normally get a bit of a longer time to watch rise before flooding would occur, they're not expecting that to be the case. So the rain that we're adding on top of those already swollen creeks and streams going to make them react very quickly, and we could go from roads that were passable say 5-10 minutes ago to roads that are now covered in water. And that's part of the reason that flash flood warning is in place off to the northeastern side of the viewing area. And we'll show you some of the radar estimates of rainfall that we've seen here over the last 24 hours. This shows some of the heavy rain that's pushed through. Areas in the blue, that's about 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches when you get into the brighter colors. You go into the purples, and these are radar estimated rainfall totals in the last 24 hours over 1.5 inches. And then you get into the southern portions of Franklin County. That's where you see some of those reds start to pop up. Those reds are indications that 2.5 inches of rain rainfall has fallen in the last 24 hours, and I would certainly believe it based on the flooding that we've seen across the region today and the flooding reports that we had out of the Newark area, Licking County too. We've seen some of those heavier purples over toward that flash flood warning as well, and the storms that are working their way through that region producing quite a heavy rate of rainfall at this time, in addition to the rain, the rotating thunderstorm threat. We'll wait for the data to catch up there, and then we'll zoom back in to the east side of the viewing area into that area of heavier thunderstorms working its way right now into that flash flood warning. And you can see some of those really bright colored purples here on the radar. That would be an indication of rainfall about 1.5 to 2.5 inches per hour. So we're adding to already swollen rivers and creeks, flooded roads, low-lying areas, potentially more flooding as we head through this evening over toward Guernsey County. Certainly going to be something to watch carefully as we head into tonight. And of course, when we get into the overnight hours, that's where you get into the really dangerous portion of flood potential out there, because you're not going to be able to look at a road and determine how deep that water is. It could look like a few inches. It may end up being a couple feet. And that's not something you want to play around with. That's the saying we always say, turn around, don't drown. You never know how deep those areas of water are before you actually get into them. Switching back over to the radar here. Show you that latest tornado warning continuing in portions of Guernsey County. There's about 5 minutes left on this particular portion of the warning. The warning down in Muskingum County officially goes till 9:45, though that part of the storm looking to get weaker as well. So that's good news as far as what we're seeing for rotation in these thunderstorms. We'll switch back over to Pittsburgh radar, take a view inside the thunderstorm here, and it does still show signs of some rotation. I want to just reset the map here real quick. And then we'll zoom back into Guernsey County, get a close-up view of that rotating thunderstorm. Still looking like there is some rotation there, especially on the north side of Guernsey County. You can see it moving off to the east now of Kimballton. Some brighter greens in here. Not seeing so much the bright reds, but still, at least on a broad scale, some rotation likely working its way through portions of northern Guernsey County to the north of, it looks like US 22 there, seeing some of those storms rotating and pushing through. This is going to travel northwest of Londonderry, so that's not going to be a problem for you guys. But if you're over toward Freeport and Nottingham, you guys would be the next ones in line for this storm as it starts to exit us here in the 10 TV viewing area. But the strongest portion of this storm, the most likely to be rotating, now pushing to the east of I-77. So good news there that now we've crossed it over the highway, and travelers out there don't have to worry about that part of the storm anymore. We'll switch back to the big view here again before we zoom in toward portions of Muskingum County. Again, that's been the harder one to track here tonight. Muskingum County just in the wrong spot for all of those radars out there. Looks like that area of rotation, if we're seeing, it's likely working its way off toward north of Rich Hill, north of Chandlersville, Smith Mill right now, Ricks Mills as well. This is kind of the area we were expecting it to go as we started to lose the view from the Columbus radar. Still looks like some rotation in here as well, traveling right along Ohio 313, Ohio 146. Those are going to be areas to watch as this travels off to the east. If you're in Chandlersville, if you're in Smith Mill, at least from this view here, it looks like you guys are out from under the gun of the rotating part of this thunderstorm, though I do want to check just a couple other radars before we make that determination. We'll go here to the Columbus radar, again kind of getting out of the best view for it, but not really seeing too much you can make an analysis on there. We'll switch over toward the Charleston radar real quick as well, see if that gives us a better scope into the clouds. Not really. Again, it's really going to be this area in here, Chandlersville, Ricks Mills, Rich Hill, Smith Mill, kind of a broad area where we could see that rotation pushing through at this hour. I think Pittsburgh was probably giving us the best view of that. So we'll try Cleveland before we go back to Pittsburgh again. Yeah, you're just not going to get a good view out there. We've called this all night tonight, kind of the radar no man's land out there in portions of Muskingum County. Best view here on that Pittsburgh radar. Looks like there's still at least some broad rotation over across portions of Muskingum County near the Chandlersville area, mostly to the north of there, the Ricks Mills area, Rich Hill area, and that's where we're seeing that warning ongoing right now. We're coming up on 9:30 here tonight, so one of those warnings initially set to expire at 9:30. Let me switch back to the broad view here of the warnings in place across the region, and it does look like they have dropped that warning down in Muskingum County. So I believe that leaves us with just the one, which should be expiring here in short order as we work our way up into portions of Guernsey County. That warning was initially set to expire at 9:30 tonight. So if that does go ahead and be allowed to expire, that would be the end of our severe warned storms, at least for now, hopefully for the rest of the night. That warning up there in northern Guernsey County now scaled back to just the east of I-77, not quite out toward the east side of the county. It looks like that warning too, Jerry, has been allowed to expire.
So I appreciate, Michael, the help in driving the severe weather coverage this evening and helping to keep everybody in 10 TV area safe. We're looking still at a continuation of the threat for some strong to severe thunderstorms. This one mainly off toward the east, but as Michael alluded to, at the moment there are no severe thunderstorm warnings, and more importantly, no tornado warnings as the severe weather threat moves off toward the east. We're still looking at some trailing showers and perhaps some rumbles of thunder, maybe a disruption, but nothing severe. If we do see more tornado warnings, we will break back into coverage. Right now, though, we appreciate your viewership and watching with us this evening, and we'll get back to your regular program.